there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the Road to World Playoffs. Of course, this is what we've been waiting on for the phase, and all still building up to that World Championship. My name's Gormizer. Joining me on the desk is going to be Mifflin. And again, Mifflin, from this event, 4 teams that are going to be going to Worlds, so we're going to know half the bracket. The other 2 going to end up joining some other guys. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's just that weight. I don't know. It feels like we're there, man. I'm just kind of pumped. I'm excited. To explain it, first off, I recorded a video. Go to, x.com now, twitter.com/SMITEPro, and you can watch that. But we also have a nice little graphic for you to be able to look at it so you know how it's going to break down. So all of these matches are going to be best of 5. There's 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. The top 4 teams are going to the SWC main bracket. The bottom 2 teams are going to the group stage bracket. That's where the Hounds and the Gladiators are waiting right now. Number 1 seed gets to choose any of those qualifying teams from that group stage the week before Worlds, right? So whoever makes it, they get first choice. Second seed gets second choice. Third seed gets third choice. Fourth seed gets whoever's left. And so being able to come in, there's a small prize pool for this tournament. There's the election, first off, the capability of going to Worlds. And then on top of that, there's the choice of opponent at Worlds, which, as we saw last year, can royally screw you over if you are the Leviathans and you choose, at the time, the Titans, and get first rounded because of that. So it can change the entirety of how Worlds is going to work. But first, we got to get those 4 teams, and we got to figure out their seeding. That's what this weekend is for. So we're going to be bringing in 6 teams. It's the top 3 from Order, top 3 from Chaos that are going to be playing. And of course, the number 1 seed from each of those, Mifflin, got a bye round immediately in this bracket. So the Ferrymen and the Warriors are in a very, very comfortable position. They have to win just a single set, and if they win that single set, they will be moving on to Worlds. Whether it's the first set they play or the second set they play, because this is double elimination, they're going to be able to qualify. The other 4 teams will have to play at minimum 2 wins in order to qualify themselves there. And of course, that means we're starting Dragons and Ravens. A little bit later, Kings and Leviathans are going to take each other on. Winner of this first one's going to take on the Ferrymen. What a prize. This winner of the second one takes on the Warriors, which, depending on, honestly, those are going to be some really, really good sets of Smite to watch. Again, winners of those, which is going to start tomorrow for Match 3 and Match 4, will be going to SWC. And then on Saturday, we'll find the last 2 teams that are going. Sunday will be the seed determination, right? We'll be figuring out who's first, who's second, who's third, and who's fourth.
And just to break it down in incredibly simple terms, because I got lost in the complexity of it, top 4 go to Worlds.
Yeah,
and top 2 make money. That's the big one I think a lot of the fans at home are excited about. And me personally, when I was competing, it was about the money, absolutely. So first place, I believe, taking home $10,000. Second place, taking home $5,000, as well as those ability to compete at the World Championship and choose who you're playing against.
And it's really interesting as well, because thinking about it, Glads and Hounds, we already know we're not seeing them until January, the first weekend of January, whatever that number is. I can look it up in a second. For 2 of these teams, that's also true, but they just don't know that yet, and they might not know until Saturday, right, when some of those elimination games are on the line. And then they're going to have 2 more months, essentially, of waiting and practicing and grinding to try and get there. The rest of the teams are going to be waiting and practicing and grinding, but for the championship, and that's the big deal. Again, first one up here, though, is Ravens and Dragons. One that I'm actually really excited to watch. Both of these teams have made swaps. Both of these teams made swaps specifically in the carry role. Both of these teams looked better after their swaps, although it's definitely taken some time and maybe grain of salted as to how much better is compared to some of the other swaps we've seen. But they
grain of salter, John Salter.
Oh, man, well, no, not him. He's yeah, okay, and yeah, he's not here anymore, as it turns out. But these 2 teams, I think, are going to be really fun. The Dragons specifically are the ones who made the more recent swap, right? Grabbing Coast for Vote, making a change of a core that had been together for damn near 4 years for the first time, and it brought some revitalization to the team. And Mifflin, I feel like everybody on the Dragons kind of stepped up after that.
Yeah, and having had the opportunity to speak to Mike recently, he had said, bringing on Coast brought us a lane that we can feel confident in our ability to play through consistently. That's one of the primary reasons they look at Coast. Mike had said, look, he's really impressed me in his stint in the SPL, has been one of the most aggressive ADC players, has been able to make it work very consistently, even went back, he said personally, and watched every single one of Coast's matches from Coast's perspective and said, I don't think he lost a single matchup this year. Whether or not I agree with that, I don't, but you know, if Mike seems to think so and the Jade Dragons seem to think so, and it's also been working out for them, I think a great pickup for this team.
I do think that, you know, one of the things, it was trying to find pillars, right, in all of the lanes here, and we got a lot from Coast. I think we've been getting a lot more from Nika since that swap as well, and it's really, like I said earlier, revitalized the Dragons, it feels like. So I'm excited to see what they have to offer for us today, but you don't have to take from me. We've got one of the players standing by. It's Nika ready for an interview.
That's right. I've got Nika here from the Jade Dragons. Nika, let's go ahead and kind of just start with solo lane a little bit. We've been seeing how the meta's developed over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. New patch comes in, some nerfs around some of the mage itemization, some buffs around warriors. What's your kind of general thoughts, at least initially, on this new patch?
I'd say it was like a step in the right direction, but maybe like too light on the nerfs. But we'll just have to wait and see how everything plays out, really.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, you know, kind of what develops from that point. But kind of talking about the Jade Dragons, a bit of a rough phase for you guys at the start of the year, made some changes about halfway through this phase, and a little bit more on the up and up. What's your kind of general thoughts on the team right now coming into this event?
I think we're all feeling good. Just our prep leading into this tournament, I think everyone's feeling super confident as always, and yeah, we just can't wait to play.
And what are kind of your general thoughts against your opponents playing against the Ravens? They had a pretty decent, at least, phase for themselves, finished out, I think, a 50-50 on theirs. What are your general takes on the Ravens?
Yeah, I think they're a good, like a really good team. I think we always have like pretty close sets with them. I think pretty much every time we've played them, it's gone like either way. It's been like 3 or 4 games. So yeah, hopefully we just have a good set and come out on top.
You think anything maybe spicy comes out this patch? You know, we had a couple of gods get some really nice buffs and nerfs their way, have a new god jumping on. Do you think maybe we see anything a little wild this patch?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Maman is just like the one anomaly that we haven't seen all year, and like I think she's very different to a lot of the gods we've seen. So just yeah, excited to see how people play her if she's open.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the set breaks down. Nika, I'll let you get back with your team. Good luck in your match. We'll throw it back to the desk.
Oh, you can hear it there, Mifflin. I think something very important to note on, right? They're playing on the most recent update, announced last Wednesday, patched on Tuesday, right? So realistically, you've had your hands on this for a little bit, but and I think a very similar sentiment. What all has changed, if much has changed, is really kind of what's up to question today.
Man, so much has changed. So many of these small balance changes that I think really could shake up the meta. Nika, of course, brings up the addition of Maman. I think that shakes up P's and B's a good deal. We'll control who's making it through, how many value picks are making it through. We'll get an idea of how strong Maman Brigitte herself is. But that's not the only thing that changes. We've also seen a whole lot of just sweeping meta changes. Danza Burrow in particular has been one of my biggest winners on the 10-12 Season of Worlds patch. That god, previously, inside of his Tanuki Trickery, got 20%, I believe, auto attack damage reduction. Yeah. You know what it is now? It's 20% damage reduction.
Yeah, that's
just full
good.
stop. The abilities aren't going to hurt him as much. Minions aren't going to hurt him as much. That god's always been on just the low end of the meta, barely making it in as a pocket pick. I think now probably something you want to keep your eyes on, as well as some itemization changes. Thank God, Breastplate of Vigilance, a little bit of a change there, determination, excuse me. Maybe not going to be a 5-slotted item on every single god, on every single pick, on every single team anymore. Maybe still will be, though, because it's just 2 protections per stack.
I think the biggest question, especially since we talked to Nika up front, we're going to be looking between him and I believe Haddix for a lot of this matchup. There is that question right now of, okay, are you still doing mages, and how many mages are being run, right? Can you still pick maybe the field, or is it the Opwash, the Rygans, the Morrigan, the Faze, and then you start diving a little bit more into the warriors? So that's really going to be, I think, the contest for them as well, because I feel like both Nika and Haddix made a bigger splash and bigger name for themselves on the warriors. And so it's going to be interesting how they specifically are going to play today. And then again, also how that contrasts with like the Levi's and the Kings later. Also, you were talking about the Danza Burrow. Panda Cat's probably geeking out, bro. Yep. Like, that's one of his favorite gods. But it is that guy right there, Haddix, that is going to have to go up against it. Also worth mentioning that the last time these two teams played was week 2, because they were in opposite divisions. So they only had the one. Ravens win that 3-1. And at the time, I believe that was like just before we started seeing a lot of the mage solos. So a lot of the game has changed since the last time they played together and played against each other. And it is, I think, going to be up to some of these side lanes to determine a lot of that. What do you think, are you looking for out of Haddix here in a matchup versus like Nika?
Man, it's interesting because Soul Lane's in such a precarious position right now. Is it still a mage solo meta? Probably. If that's the case, is the matchup going to be Raijin versus Morrigan Le Fay every game, or maybe an Opwash makes his way through? It's pretty difficult, it seems like, for Soul Laners to take agency and just go ahead and dominate the lane themselves. Mages are going to be trading out buffs and Totem of Skulls pretty consistently. So we'll have to see. As far as God selections are concerned, I think it's more so Soul Lane is now a role about impact and team fight.
Yeah.
You're not really dictating the game by just continually rolling through the blue buff like we had seen in metas of the past. So looking at God pools as they stand, maybe Haddix leans a little bit more so in his individual picks towards the team fight. Cthulhu, Lancelot with those large area control abilities, a little bit more impactful, whereas Nika on the other end, maybe a little bit more so towards lane bullying. Looking at the Chaac, looking at the Bellona, the Poseidon to a certain extent, kind of fits that role. But if Nika is looking to go for that standard, I'm just going to run down my lane, I'm going to bully my guy and dominate the map, Haddix is not the one to do that too. Haddix has never once lost a game for his team, but he is one of the best role players in the league right now. He's going to hold his own on the majority of his picks. He'll rotate in a little bit later, I think, than some of the other top-tier Soul Laners. When I think of, like, SOT, I'm thinking YSC at Gold Fury at level 12. When I'm thinking of or even Nika himself, it's like, why is he in the mid 3v3 on 5th wave and mid? Haddix is a little bit more subdued in that regard. Likes to hang out in lane, make sure he's farmed up, has that protection stacked up, then gets involved in the fight.
What I thought was really interesting, first off, the overlap of gods right in the middle, right? And that's more or less personally where I'm expecting to see a lot of, I guess, these two today is right there in the middle. Mainly because you had mentioned the Cthulhu, and that brings me to another aspect of this update, which was Nemesis. Not only being buffed, which, A, is a really good thing to play against Cthulhu, but also that was something LASBRA was trying to play anyway. So it feels like the Dragons maybe are coming out of this update with a couple more gods in their pocket than they maybe have had over the last few weeks of play, plus the fact that they have said not only themselves that they're feeling a little bit better about it, but having more time to work together as a unit and kind of fix some of the issues that made them want to make that swap. It definitely does feel like this is one that 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, okay, yeah, Ravens, give it to me, we'll move on. Now that we're in playoffs time and they've had a little bit more time to cook, I don't think it's going to be that simple for them.
Yeah, the Dragons, I mean, it's VaporishCoast, right? That's the difference. That's the breath of fresh air to this team that has maybe instilled a bit more confidence in their ability to either roll with leads or close out games. One of the major, I suppose, tension points for the Jade Dragons earlier on in the year was their ability to siege. Felt like they couldn't play a single set where I wouldn't see a Reddit post or a Twitch thread or someone on Twitter saying, man, what's going on with the Jade Dragons? 10,000 gold up, and they just can't knock down a single bird. They're struggling on tier 2s. I feel like VaporishCoast has really alleviated a lot of that in particular. Not even speaking to his lane dominance, and he has been dominant in lane. It's just his willingness to walk up to a structure and say, hey, I'll trade a little bit of my HP. I'll make sure that tower goes down. Or I'll put some threat onto that Phoenix, force the enemy team to respond, and that gets the team fight started. So I think some of those weaknesses of the Jade Dragons being alleviated is what gives us the confidence to say this should be a very good set.
Well, there were a couple of things that, I'm going to be honest with you, slipped my mind in the update that I also feel like you are going to be very uniquely adept at answering, because it feels like a couple jungle items got just a little bit sprinkled onto them, right? Not so much that you would say, oh my god, these guys are taking over, but enough that you're maybe going to think about it. So 7% move speed added to Erendite, just
That's
like
a big
blank.
one.
The passive move speed was taken down by 10%, but 7% starter is pretty solid.
Yeah, so now when Erendite is used, at its best case scenario previously, 30% additional movement speed, now down to 20% on the passive, but 7% permanently, means you are 3% lower at the ideal time, but 7% faster all the time, which is just so significant. For those of you that have been around since Season 8, Season 9, you remember back when the movement speed metas were in place, and it was, oh, all the katanas have like a little bit of movement speed on it, 7% here, 3% there, and all those items are getting purchased every single time because movement speed is an incredibly valuable stat. So I think Erendite in a very good spot right now, especially considering the percent pen options for junglers are pretty easy to pick up, pretty decent. You can hit pen stat or cap on about 2 items, so slotting in Erendite shouldn't be the hardest thing on the planet. But I think Brawler's Beat Stick has opened up a few options, only 5 additional power on Brawler's Beat Stick, but now you can go towards it in that first slot, and it's more so, oh, okay, I'm sacrificing CDR, but all of a sudden I've got 100 to 0, whereas previously I was only knocking someone down to 90% or 95%. So ability to express yourself in the build a little bit more so.
It also feels like, specifically because of some of the gods that we're seeing. Like, you know, my mind is latched onto Nemesis. Maybe it's just because there was an update, and I know that there's a couple guys that really like playing her. But Erendite was a common pickup for her. Now it feels like that could something that could maybe match in a little bit more. I guess we'll have to see. I also think I saw Sam Marbach, coach for the Ravens. I want to say in a Raven onesie in the background.
My man's got onesies for every team he's coached. He keeps the dragon one in his car, I think.
I wish I could get it, because the thing is, I can't tell if that's like a giant it looks like it's a beak. That definitely has to be like I mean, I can't imagine it being anything other than a Raven. So doubling his coach and mascot.
That's big.
As we get into picks and bans here for Game 1. Ravens, first pick team over the Dragons. Chernobog, Athena are going to be their first 2 bans. On the other side, Dragons, Naja, Yamoja. So most of what we're seeing right now, Mifflin, is pretty much par for the course. Maybe the Naja stands out the most to me because it feels like that is a Scream will play it every now and then. Do you think that there was something that gave Naja an extra little punch for this update?
I mean, Naja does utilize some of the items that got changed pretty well, but I think you're right to say that it's more so just, hey, let's get that out of Scream's hand. And it also opens up maybe a few more of those flavor selections. Haven't done the math exactly with Maman Brigitte, how that's going to shake up first versus second pick, but is Maman Brigitte even all that good? Every SPL player I've talked to about her has been dodgy at best, telling me whether or not she's going to be top of the meta, so we'll have to see. I think that is the first significant answer, though. I had seen rumblings that maybe some of the changes to Raijin have reduced his viability. Clearly not the case if he's eaten a ban that high up.
Along with the Opwash, right? Which I think also answers the other half of that question, which was, okay, are mage solos still kind of hanging out over there? And the answer seems to be yes. We haven't seen him much else. Although I will give Opwash and Raijin some credit because at least Venenu, I believe, has played both of them in mid. I know Dardez has played at least one of them in mid. And so that's the flexibility that we're going to see here. And like you said, finding out the answer. Maman is available for this tournament. It's the first time that we're going to potentially get to see her. But do you first pick your jungler, essentially? And usually the answer to that is no, unless it's adapting on like Mercury, which sometimes we do see get locked in off the top. Instead, one of the top picks throughout the phase, Amaterasu, is the first choice for the Ravens.
A consistent pick, won't lose you in the lane, will hold her own very well, brings in great initiation. Come late game in the 5-on-5, Amaterasu just really valuable. Also boosts your objective burn a good deal. So a decent top pick, and something we see pretty frequently from these higher stakes tournaments. When money's on the line, when seeding's on the line, when your ability to go to Worlds is on the line, want to go towards safety, want to go towards consistency, and Amaterasu brings exactly that. I thought we would see Maman Brigitte today, considering how much damage she does, and it's immense. I didn't think we'd see her this high up in the draft, though. It feels like there's a lot of picks that could make it difficult for Maman Brigitte to exist. Anyone with high CC output or high damage output from the Assassin tab could really make it difficult. Maman is very, very strong, especially when she's like 4 to 5 slotted in the build. Levels 1, 2, and 3 maybe struggle a little bit. Controlling those mid camps so important right now. I'll love to see how these pros play it in the early game.
I'm actually even more interested because it's LASBRA who's playing it, and LASBRA is like he's like the early game guy, right? Like he's really good at that specific portion of the game. I'm also really, really interested because we got Poseidon. We noted that was in Nika's god pool, so who knows where that's going to be going
is
right
that
now.
jungle?
But yeah, Chaac locked alongside locked alongside Tiamat, which is someone who we haven't seen in a whole while. So what on earth is going on with the Ravens right now?
It's gotta be Chungle, right? Amaterasu solo, yeah, okay. Maybe you're talking about Amaterasu ADC if it's the Camelot Kings. Maybe you're talking Amaterasu jungle if you're throwing. I don't think the Highland Ravens are. So Chaac jungle, high damage output does bring some of that bully potential that I was talking about to fight into the Maman. But you also leave available some like very high priority picks for the Jade Dragons. Anhur's like their bread and butter right now. So I think Dragons come away with something very strong, and the Highland Ravens come away with an eclectic composition that doesn't exactly scream early or late game to me just yet. Chaac's got that early game bully potential. Tiamat hasn't got the follow-up. Amaterasu's great in the late game, as is Tiamat, but Chaac falls off really hard, especially out of the jungle. So we'll have to see the rest of that composition before I'm all in on the Ravens. I think Chaac's disruption factor can come into play pretty significantly, stopping Maman, catching the dash, or preventing her from just canceling her one for free and getting all that free burst. Maybe valuable. Even catching Poseidon, preventing that Kraken on follow-up, I think could be very significant for the Highland Ravens, but not exactly a pick I would have expected to see top 3, not exactly one I'd expect to see game 1, but the Highland Ravens always here to surprise.
Something I did expect to see at some point during the tournament was Coast playing on her. It just feels like it goes hand in hand. So that gets locked in for the Dragons before bans come through. And it's all supports down there right now, right? Fafnir, Kuzenbo, Khepri, Aphrodite. Every single one of those, trying to limit both, it feels like, Hurry and PBM in these regards. And slow things down a little bit. I'm really interested in watching how the Ravens draft continues. The Dragons will have the next pick. I'm going to ask you about the Poseidon, because I feel like the next god might give us more of a glimpse into where it's going, unless it is their support. Do you think he can perform well in solo right now, or do you think he needs to be a mid laner?
I think he's okay in solo. A lot of these mages are just fine. We might be looking at Maman solo now with that Erlang lock-in. And if that's the case, Gore, you are on your own on this island, because I've got 0 ball experience with Maman solo. But
you think I'm playing solo?
I don't know. I mean, more than I am. Look, can Poseidon solo? Yes. Lifesteal plus defense means any mage is going to be able to hold their own relatively well. Resustain on wave will be too tanky to die to gank. Is it going to work in mid? We have 10 years of history telling us that Poseidon can work in mid. What I will say, though,
as long as he hits those Krakens, that's a very big caveat.
What I will say about this Jade Dragons composition is that their ability to do neutral objectives is just ridiculous. Maman Brigitte DPS on Fire and Gold Fury on its own should open the door to some early rotations towards those objectives. Poseidon's Trident does the exact same thing. Erlang Shen, an auto attacker, does the exact same thing. Anhur's got massive burst potential thanks to his ultimate and passive. So I think the Jade Dragons could be looking at a draft here where they try and set pace through macro farm, and they've got a lot of potential to do it. Considering, looking at the Highland Ravens and their draft as it stands, I'm not seeing massive early game threats here. I'm not seeing a whole lot of, we need to respect X pick. It's, okay, well, Charon's going to be in my backline. He's going to be real annoying. Chaac might be a little bit of a threat, but Tiamat needs time to scale up. Hachiman needs some time to scale up. The Jade Dragons might be looking to blitzkrieg.
Honestly, and with a Sylvanus as well, you've got some of that early healing. He's relatively tanky early on. It feels like, yeah, he fits right in. Now, though, with Erlang, so you're thinking probably Maman, solo, Poseidon, mid, Erlang, jungle?
That is probably where I would put it, yes. But it's hard to say. Poseidon solo, Erlang mid could be the case. I think, Jade Dragons, they get up to some shenanigans like that. Would be a good deal of pressure. I will say, personally, I think Maman Brigitte is a jungler. At the end of the day, Maman Brigitte is so much better in the jungle than every other role. She struggles to clear wave and solo lane, struggles to deal with all that poke potential. So, can it go there? Yes. I may have talked myself into it. I'm going Erlang mid.
You're going Erlang mid? Okay, well, so there's a lot of precedent for that. I was actually going to ask something along those lines, because we not only have we seen Erlang mid a couple times this phase, but I believe it's been pretty successful on top of that. Not only that, though, Mifflin, and this was just because I want to prod you for information, which is we've seen, Set, Susano, if it's a Pagon pick, maybe we need to glance over it for a little bit, but a lot of assassins that will get pulled into the mid lane on occasion, Kleena, Benihue likes to play. Is Maman in that kind of conversation where like you think like, okay, hey, those mid laners are going to be pulling from your jungle pool again?
Maybe. I really just don't like Maman's wave clear. I'm just not a massive fan of it. Having to stand off to the side of the wave, channel my 1, cancel it, channel my 1, cancel it, and make sure that passive damage falls through. It just takes a little bit too long. It's eating up your resources for the next engagement. Maman's ability cooldowns are a very interesting minigame that they have to play because she wants to keep that charged up, that first ability. So I don't love her laning phase. Will mid laners do it? Yes, they're evil. They're the root of all evil, and they try and take away all fun from junglers. So maybe they'd be willing to take away Maman, but I don't think they should be.
Well, we've talked a lot about the Dragons. So looking at the Ravens now, I feel like It's really weird to say, but I feel like I don't see a god on there that's like meant to be that guy. You know what I mean? Like Ama, a lot of setup, a lot of good damage. Chaac, a lot of setup. Tiamat feels like tanky. Can do some good late game damage. We've seen Tiamat actually top the chart several times. But like when I'm thinking of like just outright fraggers, I don't really see. Maybe Hachi's on there, but it doesn't seem like too much. I'm interested to see what the Ravens are going to do with this draft, where everything's going to end up, and the only way to do that is to jump down to Game 1 with our casters.
That's right. It is the kickoff of the SPL playoffs. 4 teams go to Worlds. We won't find one out just yet, but we'll see who gets to make it a little interesting as we jump in with the Ravens and the Dragons. It's JMac inbound and Doug here to bring the action for game number 1. We will be seeing Maman go over to the mid lane. Dardez going to be taking the brand new god available just this week for players to be able to jump in competitively with. And inbound, I kind of want to get your thoughts a bit on this god. You know, what's kind of the scaling of this god? Is she super powerful early impact? Is she more mid? Where does this god kind of translate throughout the game?
She has some, you know, impact in the early and the mid portions of the game, but her passive scales with missing power for missing health. So it's something where she wants to get to that late game point. Think of her kind of in the same vein as like an Ao Kuang. Not too strong early, some kill potential, but that mid or late-ish mid game and then really late game is where the god starts to just pop off. But you can't ever underestimate how much CC that character has with the big ult and also the stun on the 1. Some decent setup there.
You can already see a bit of her passive active there. You're wondering what all those little green spikes are. Well, that's her passive kicking through. And it's what you were just talking about. Well, it's more HP missing equals more damage coming from there. Struggling at least a little bit in the early clear are the double mages for the Jade Dragons. And I think probably the next point to kind of talk about, and one we'll maybe get to see over the course of this weekend, is just how more or less we see mages in the solo. A lot of their itemization got a bit of a hit, but maybe along with that, we saw a lot of warriors get some extra help their way.
Yeah, warrior and warrior items. We have Corrupted Bluestone, the red version of the Bluestone, getting the buff in the late game. And so that's something that maybe we see Haddix actually opt for. Also, Chaac got a buff, so there's something there. And as you said, there's more than that. Axe buffs. We had some Cucullin buffs. There's been a bunch of buffs to that solo lane, so curious also with where the mage is going to be played. Are they still going to be played in solo? Already we have this Poseidon, and we shouldn't expect much from solo lane. This is a farm it out solo lane style, maybe blue buff invades, but for the most part, this dual lane should be our focus.
I think right to do so when you have PBM back on a pick that he's really been kind of comfortable going back towards. Has been this Sylvanus, played it a few times over the course of this phase. Coast on his most comfortable god right now, the Anhur, typically gets banned away from him, but now to be picked up in couple alongside PBM Sylvanus just means it's going to be a very powerful early duo, and you can see that reflected already as Highland Ravens have just been pushed on this tier 1 time and time again.
Yeah, sitting on this tower line, and this is kind of what happens when you have this Tiamat in mid. You just don't have that same fight potential, so it's just, you kind of got to give up the pressure, and with that pressure, actually Scream looking to come left.
Scream on the way, Hurriwind a bit low. A quick jump from Coast gets him just enough distance to be able to break out from this time. As Dardez actually keeping Venenu back. And we see a little bit of what Mifflin was talking about on the desk as far as her Maman's wave clear goes. Walk up, channel that one, cancel, channel, cancel. Just keep that on repeat.
And the interesting thing with her 1 is every time you cancel it and use it again, it uses that mana bar up. So when we get to this level 5, level 6, this is why you're going for that Book of Thoth, because you run out of mana so quickly.
Yeah. Well, let's see kind of how her build path goes as well. I mean, traditionally, at least in a lot of the games I've been playing and watching, she's just been jungle. So your jungle build tends to be a little bit different compared to what you go with the mid lane. So starting with this Book of Thoth and maybe building into a bit more of that traditional style of play. Zapman in a bit danger. Good pillar from Coast. Dash away. Zapman uses the beads, pin late, and now it's Hurriwind to body block and make sure that his Hunter can get out. The aggressive play and nature of the Dragons is allowing them to go for an invade on purple. You see LASBRA looping around the bottom side of the map, going for a bit of a speed invade himself. Purple does get stolen by the Jade Dragon, so more XP denied over to Zapman.
And LASBRA confirming both speed buffs. Scream not able to catch him out. Scream has no ultimate here, and Alma with no ultimate. Not a ton of CC. LASBRA's going to get both of those and get out. And now he has both his green buff, these mids, and both of his speed buffs to get. Along with the back camps, we're going to have a big lead in the jungle. And it's not because Laz is going to be ahead, it's because Scream's going to be behind.
This has just been the LASBRA special, man. I can't remember which week it was this phase that he started doing this. I want to say it was like week 2, week 3, goes to this weird, speed buff invade. We're like, oh, that's cool, speed buff. Then he goes to the other one, we're like, all right, that was cool and quirky. He'll probably never do it again. No, it's every single week that we watch a Dragon set. It's just a question of, is LASBRA going to be there, yes or no? More often than not, it's been yes.
And it started with that rat, because you always have that safety of just ulting out, but now it doesn't even matter, and as just highlighted by the camera, that left speed has 1 mini left there, so it's not going to be respawning, and actually a pull on his Zapman gets ulted, ult out.
Able to jump away, but Coast jumps in, and 1 impale will put Zapman down. The horse does not get him far enough, and the Jade Dragons put themselves on the board with first blood.
And it comes from that purple pressure. They actually get that purple buff, they get the beads on Zapman earlier. And Sylvanus, he doesn't have that same strength that he used to have, but he still has beads punish everywhere. The 1, the 3, the ultimate, a lot of threat there. Zapman just dropping that speed buff. Now it'll finally start to respawn, and Scream will now have another speed buff to do, but it is almost a minute and a half later.
I think the important thing now, and one of the faults that we did end up seeing, I believe it was in their matchup against the Styx Ferryman, was the Jade Dragons got a really good lead over in duo. They get their first blood. It's all about what are you going to do with that first blood. Well, they didn't get a whole lot then, so I want to see that translated a little bit further in this game specifically. But one thing that I saw picked up, and I wanted to bring attention to you, and that you simultaneously at the same time brought attention to me, was Stone Gaia for solo lane Haddix. We've been seeing a lot of Gauntlet of Thieves. I mean, Stone Gaia did get a buff a couple patches ago. Seems a little strange to maybe pick it up right away.
I mean, Gaia is just kind of like the perfect option in solo lane. It's not giving you any protections, that's not why it's bought, but the health you get from it, the sustain you get from it, it really provides just an unkillable solo laner. And while he may be able to be one-shot, Nika's not going like a one-shot build. This is poke, sustain, and that's exactly what Haddix is going to be able to match him with. And something that maybe is, like you're talking about, the buff to it. Maybe it isn't a big deal, but when you do get knocked up, you get a little bit of power with it.
Ultimates used by both of the junglers. Scream will get the stun on LASBRA, but without beads, LASBRA going to lose out on some of that chase potential. So it was a fight over these mid harpies. LASBRA now going to have the better end to try and clear those ones out and try and keep that lead up for the Dragons. It hasn't been too high just yet, about 1,500 gold in the lead for the Dragons, but I think the important part is starting to bleed into what you were talking about earlier. That XP lead that LASBRA has over Scream starting to spill over maybe across the rest of the map. LASBRA still trying to get aggressive, even without an ultimate. Just him and Mike here by themselves. That might need some backup because it's going to be a 3 versus 2. LASBRA silenced out. Big damage coming from Venenu, but ult from Mike to try and bail out. Hurriwind is now going to try and lock down Mike.
Mike's
against
dead.
The 4-man
He's
surrounding
dead.
of the Ravens. PBM trying to break out
Right.
here, but now it's Dardez to
Right.
help out. Gets a big ultimate to help out, but there's just too much damage and too many people. Dardez gets one. A Kraken from Nika helps out, but Dardez is low.
He missed
200
dash.
HP. Haddix gonna chase him down the slow too much. The Whirlpool there. The heal is just in time for Dardez to stay up. He's out of the team fight. It'll be a 2-for-1 trade at the end for the Ravens.
And Mike kind of got the team to take that fight on top of him. Unfortunately, just not enough damage there, and a lot of damage by the Ravens. Venenu gets off just too much damage there. And we kind of saw the weakness of Maman in these early game fights. Her damage is not there. She's not doing any damage.
Speaking of damage, though, it's all about Coast. Even still holding on to ultimate throughout all of that. Loses out in his beads against Zapman. Yeah, Jutsu. Really slowing
Wait,
things
Zap?
down, but Zap walks back up to the wave with no mana. Coast is going to try to take him down. Zapman jukes out just about everything, and now Coast is the one who has to turn and
Wait, he has
run
no beads.
because Scream is on the way.
The bait!
Ultimate will lock him down. Zapman pulls off the ultimate bait for the team and nets himself an extra kill. Now it's Zapman in danger, loses his beads, but it's only Mike and Laz against 3 this time. The Highland Ravens, they turned it around and have gotten a kill for themselves.
And we kind of looked at each other a little funny when Zapman walks back up, but it doesn't matter. Zapman sees the teams rotating, and he gets the peel out. A pull just barely off the mark by Mike. Also uses ultimate there. Purple was spawning, so trying to get a little aggressive so they can actually go for the invade. Unfortunately, pull does not hit, ult does not hit, and the purple buff is invaded, or is not invaded, and the Ravens end up getting it. And all this time, Dart is starting to play a little aggressive on this Maman. And I was curious with this mid lane, at what point is Dardez going to be really confident and comfortable walking forward? Because when you see these assassins in mid, there is a spike that they hit. where they want to just take any 1v1, and that damage is insane.
Holy. Can we look and see what he's leveling? I believe it's Torrent that he's leveling on the Chaac at the very least. I believe it's that second ability that did get a recent buff. Yeah, crazy buff that came his way. I think, what is it, 340 at max rank now? Good lord, that is an insane amount of damage that we saw put on display.
And he's actually opting not even to level the 1. He's actually putting points into the 3 to get more healing, more attack speed reduction. So the 1 is basically just set up for his 2 and for his 3. Interesting leveling, but it should be a lot of damage from the Chaac and a lot of survivability.
A lot of damage done to Dardez. Used the explosion just to try and bait Screammmmm away. Quick dash out gets Dardez out of danger. The knockup misses from Venenu. LASBRA with some good peel to bail out his mid laner, but still seeing a bit of the weakness, at least in that early game of the Maman. Can't take those 1v1s against the godlike Scream this early in. And now we see Nika just slowed down by Haddix. Haddix returning some decent damage back, but as mentioned, unless he's using that Torrent, not really getting an insane amount of damage on a Nika just yet.
And the little bit of damage he does do, Nika's just going to sustain up. But I just want to draw eyes to LASBRA's build quick. He has built 0 power since he finished his starter item. And he still has 0 power with the Toxic Blade build. But those auto attacks are going to be coming through fast. A lot of anti-heal, a lot of auto attack reduction. So more of a utility Erlang style so far, not a lot of damage. Curious to see kind of where he goes after this, because there's a world where he goes Xe, Kins, a lot of damage. There's also a world where he goes maybe like a Shogun's. He goes Berserker, something to just get a little bit more survivability. Because he has no power so far, so kind of what route is he going to go?
I think we'll be keeping eyes on that build. Also, interesting that for Scream, going for that Jotunsen first slot. Maybe we'll have to talk about that in a bit, because LASBRA taking a whole lot of damage from Haddix, and Scream is a combo. Haddix walks up. He's got the no ultimate this time, but Scream does. LASBRA used the ultimate, gets stunned down. Kraken only hits Haddix. Scream dashes in, and that's enough damage from the double warrior, maybe with the help of Venenu that can make it 2. Nika under fire under the tower, and it's 2 more for the Highland Ravens.
And so far, I am just not impressed with his Erlang. Purple buff secured actually by Zapman and Hurriwind, but this Erlang so far, I'm not too impressed with. He actually had that early lead, and Mike trading out ult with Zapman, nothing else used, just Mike's ult, Zapman's ult. This Erlang had that big early lead, invaded the speed buffs, put Scream really far behind, but since then, 0-2-1, Scream on the other side, 2-1-3 a part of every kill. This is just kind of like the tale of the first 5 minutes versus since. It's really been just all Scream.
And maybe it's a product of the build that you were highlighting, not having any initial power, not really getting any defensive stats either. I believe a little bit of HP that comes from Toxic Blade, but outside of that, LASBRA's not tanky. He's not really dealing damage. He's got great utility, as you mentioned, with anti-heal, but anti-heal at this stage of the game feels like it really only affects Haddix, if anybody.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to highlight. That anti-heal is going to be important later in the game to 1v1, you know, Zapman, 1v1 Haddix even at this point, but it's not that important right now. So curious to see the Toxic Blade so early. Maybe something like an Xe in the second slot after that tier 2 Odibo, which is something we didn't even highlight, which is kind of a weird build in itself. Usually we see this Atalanta's in the jungle, but we have the tier 2 Odibo. But even through this, even though they're behind in kills, the game's even, they're still allowed to play up with the Sylvanus in that grouping. This Maman is in a solid spot. XP lead is about 1,000 in favor of the Dragons, even though they're down 5-2. So it's still a pretty even game, even if kills are telling a different story.
Scream looking for an invade. Blee was able to get those back camps before Dardez rotates over. But all that lead the Dragons had, remember, it was about 1,500 after that first blood that was in favor of the Jade Dragons. Since then, as we saw in the charts a moment ago, only a couple hundred now between these two teams. The Ravens have done a great job of shoring that up. Now have that kill lead, 5-2 for themselves. So at least walking up to at least an even state of gold. XP slightly skewing their direction. Really, it's only that duo lane that's really falling behind on the side of the Ravens, specifically Zapman, still 2 levels down to Coast, which is maybe why we're seeing Coast still play as aggressive as he has been along with Mike.
Yeah, Coast up about a level, still playing for these purple buffs. Purple's about to spawn. You see Coast already walking back up. And this is what you got to do with Anhur. This is the point of the game that you're really strong. You have near one-shot potential at this point. Impale just off the mark, but he just actually jumps in.
Goes in, Zapman dashes out, hits him with the banner. But it's all a bait because Gold Fury's been started up. Coast was posturing for purple, but now it might just be for a Fury instead. They know that Zapman's not going to want to step up, but Hurriwind is already here. Does have a couple abilities to try and steal this one out. A little bit late on the tidal wave. The Jade Dragons will get the Gold Fury and eat the ultimate from Hurriwind, no problem. The Jade Dragons try to fight back and regain their lead.
And that's the pressure from Anhur, able to play up on this purple buff in that 1v1. Doesn't actually full commit for the purple. Goes back to that Gold Fury, as you said. Gets about 1,000 gold lead for the Dragons, keeping them in a nice spot. Dardez taking a lot of damage in mid.
Does get hit by the
Dash
knockup
caught.
while his dash is down, but no further follow-up from the Ravens unless Scream can get there in time. The dash silence is good, jumps into the ultimate. Dardez uses his, but that's not going to help him. Maybe LASBRA can turn the tide to fight against Scream. Turns back, hits him with the shield.
He
Scream
does no
will use
damage.
both of his relics, but LASBRA just has no damage to fight back in this one. Nika shows up, and he's lost half of his health. The Highland Ravens are just controlling the entire map because it's now right to the Pyromancer. Scream nearly died during the fight, but
Mike has ult.
he'll be here just in time. Can Mike steal this one away? The first ability too early from PBM, and the Ravens not only get their kill on Dardez, but they get an objective as well.
I mean, we see fights are just in favor of the Ravens. Macro play, I think the Dragons have played pretty good macro, but a lot of these fights firmly in favor of the Ravens. And not to keep harping on it, but LASBRA's really just not able to get much done in these fights. Not able to pull relics really, other than Scream, who dives a tier 1 tower to kill his mid laner. It's really just, at this point, 3-level lead in the jungle. One of them's been a part of every single kill. The other one, 0-2 and 1. Different jungle right now, or different in the jungle.
And we do see 3-level lead for Scream in the jungle at the moment. LASBRA only at that 12 for himself, where Scream 3 full items deep in the build and working on his 4th. Opposite side,
Crazy.
look over at Laz, still sitting on the tier 2 Odibo. Just got that tier 2 bounce blade before that last little fight, so a little more damage, but that's only, what, 15, 20 kind of at that point when you compare the two of them there. So still really seeing a lot of that lead that the Ravens have built up through their jungler Scream.
And Scream getting a little bit of a lead in mid lane. Venenu actually caught back up, even though we had a little bit of leave. Coast jumps in and left. Zapman takes a little bit of damage. Ult. Not enough. Zapman ults out. Gets out. But got a nice little even in mid now. Level 16 and pause on that. Little fight in duo.
Ultimate from Haddix, and Scream catches out Mike. Tidal Wave hits the Kraken from Nika. Doesn't get an
He's so
insane
tanky.
amount of value, but now it's Dardez showing up to the fight. Venenu's in danger. The silence is there. Dardez, that's inside Venenu. Nearly goes down to the damage, and LASBRA will clean up the kill. It's Dardez on the run now, and maybe the rest of the Dragons, because it's
Zapman.
Haddix, one man arming the rest of the team while Scream picks off Dardez. Haddix slows down PBM, buys some space for the rest of the team, body blocks him against the wall. Nika there for the bailout, but now with
They get
Hurriwind
dove.
here, the Ravens can just dive this tower and take down Mike. The root doesn't connect from the Hurriwind, but it does from Mike. He's just buying time, pull onto one, but tower is not
He's
safe
still
enough.
tanking.
That is 2-for-1 trade again for the Highland Ravens.
And we're seeing a big difference between the strength of the soul laners right now. Chaac, while maybe not doing a ton of damage, is able to tank it and just do a bunch of utility. And after that fight, Fire Giant pulled, but it is dropped because Coast, maybe he wasn't in that first fight, but he is level 17. It's fine to be a little worried about Coast and what he can do right now.
A lot of damage on the Anhur. Nika standing by as well. Has pretty much his full build going his direction as far as CDR is concerned. So that Kraken now on a short cooldown. Always got to have that worried threat. Jade Dragons still holding on to the gold lead at the very least. LASBRA actually gets a pretty big influx of XP during that fight. It goes from a 3-level difference in the jungles to now only 1. But I think more important, now finally starting to see some damage come online for Laz.
Yeah, able to get that kin size. Now allows him to actually, you know, threaten Haddix, threaten Scream, threaten Hurriwind. Zapman actually looking for the all-in.
Goes aggressive, immunes out the ult from Dardez, but the stun is there. 1v1 goes the way of Dardez. And maybe that's just the nature of the 3-level lead that the mid laner has for the Jade Dragons over Zapman. Good attempt by the dual lane Hunter for the Ravens, but just not quite enough. Too big of a lead the other direction. Hurriwind under fire, taunted back, used the ultimate, but he's blocked by the pillar, and a Kraken from Nika will send him to a watery grave. It's the Jade Dragons now with an extra 2 kills.
And that solo and left allows Nika to actually rotate over here, and then they get another pick. And with this pick, Pyro is spawning, but maybe this is a grouping for Fire. Actually, it's just Pyro, but Goldbeer is up on left side. Seems like they just don't want to trade. They want to confirm both of these. And actually, Haddix TPing in behind.
Walks in, surrounded by 5. Knockup is there from Coast. Haddix, though, very speedy in his escape to try and break out of here. Makes it out of that fight. Still with a little over half of his health. Will be able to sustain it back up. Pyromancer, the target for the Jade Dragons, confirmed by the team. And a little too low on health bars from the Ravens and a little bit outnumbered. Not going to continue out their chase. Aside from Scream, who will dash in and find Mike, but it would only be Mike that the Ravens could try and get a pick here. Mike gets to knock him onto 2, Roots onto 1, a full chase into commit. Will take down the support,
Kraken.
But what do you lose in response? A massive Kraken from Nika puts Zapman at critical health. Goes up onto the horse, but he's chasing out towards Coast. That's not the one you want to fight, and Dardez all by himself now. The Jade Dragons are able to pick off 1. Zapman, the first casualty of the Ravens in the fight. But it's a 1-for-1 at the end of it. LASBRA can find his way out. Quick blink and a dash gets him back to safety.
And the fight was just a little too split for the Ravens. They get that first kill on the Mike. Unfortunately, Zap gets picked off from behind. Takes a lot of damage from this Maman. At this point, level 19 for the Maman Brigitte. And still not even hitting like critical mass. She is still going to be getting a lot stronger. Only 3 items deep. And now we've seen 2 fights where she nearly one-shot Zap in both of them, and she's just going to get scarier from here.
You're telling me she's going to start hitting even harder still? You're telling me that's not peak yet?
Even harder.
Man. I feel bad for Zapman. He's just been getting the worst end of those trades. Applaud him at least for the attempt earlier up against Dardez. Did use his ult to kind of immune that explosion of souls, but you're still taking all that damage, and we're starting to see just how much damage she's doing, or maybe in response. How much damage is Nika starting to get? That Kraken in the last team fight hit 3 people.
Huge.
That might have been the saving grace for the Dragons.
Yeah, I think that's a good highlight there. If that Kraken hits even 1 less person, I don't think Dardez is able to get into the back line like that and actually get that kill, or at least threaten Zapman enough where he has to ult out. And quickly, as they're all grouped around this Fire Giant, looking at Mike's relics, the Bracer and the Frenzy, there's a lot of threat around this Fire Giant, especially with Kraken. Maman's damage on fire is good, but they also have Coast, they have LASBRAs, they have Dardez, or they have Nikas, and then they have this Bracer, they have this Frenzy. And you look at the other side, no Bracer, no Frenzy, but they have Ama. So burn is a little scary on both sides, but it definitely is in favor of the Dragons.
Dragons trying to find any pick they can get. Mike just a little short on the pull up against Hurriwind. As the Dragons are trying to go for this group round fire, maybe a pick on a Haddix and start things off. 2-man ult from Haddix bails him out for the time being. But that's another ultimate use. The wave is gone from Hurriwind, and VaporishCoast is in danger. The Dragons are trying to collapse in this fight. As we now see Scream go down. Hurriwind trying to run through. The Dragons are winning this fight handedly on the right side, but Dardez is doing his best on the mid. Loses out on the team fight that direction with a 2-for-1 trade again, this time for the Jade Dragons. Maybe they've got the confidence to pull fire.
Confidence indeed. 2 pushing middle. Haddix in this Fire Giant pit looking to defend. It's already half.
Dragons have got to do something for this Fire Giant
Chaac
fight.
soon.
LASBRA is falling low. Haddix not going to be able to steal the Fire Giant away. It's a good pin from LASBRA, now collapsed into by the Dragons. With how low Laz is, he's got to be careful, but they don't need to. When Coast and Nika are popping off in the fight, Coast gets 1, and it's only Venenu left alive in the middle of 4. Double kill for the solo lane Poseidon. The Jade Dragons now take not only the kill lead, but a pretty hefty swing in gold.
Pretty hefty indeed, and now they've got this Fire Giant. Goldfear is going to be coming down soon. Pyro is going to be spawning also. And Mike, now level 17, when he backs, he's going to have his starter finished. And when you look at the siege potential of this Dragons comp, yes, they don't have a true mage in mid lane, but they have that mage over in solo lane. So they have a lot of ranged damage to be able to threaten these Phoenixes. And then they have Dardez, who at this point, who's going to be able to match Dardez in the sideline? Who can 1v1 Dardez? I don't think anybody on the Ravens team can.
Dardez now has that Spear of the Magus finished up for himself, has hit that level 20, and has the golden hand for his starter item. Goes back and picks that one up. And it looked like it's going to be an alternate timeline. Recent buff that came that item's way. I believe, what now, 40% of your health you get back on the respawn from it. Still a hefty cooldown for it, but gives him that second win, that second chance at a team fight. Should he go down maybe a little too early.
Second chance on these team fights, and in a lot of these fights, he's going to be able to win those 1v1s. But it's when those 2v1s come through. But that second life might be the difference in just killing one and dying, or killing both and living.
Pyromancer for the Jade Dragons still have a little over 2 minutes to play with their Fire Giant buff. All tier 2 towers still standing. LASBRA not with the team just yet, as the Dragons push towards tier 2. Gonna absolutely melt that tower. No contest or defense from the Ravens, who are a bit split up right now. Their 2 side laners are still backing. Hurriwind goes in with the ultimate. It's gonna hit a couple of them, but with a runic bomb, it's a free Phoenix and nearly a kill into Hurriwind as well. He's down to just barely over 100 health himself. The Jade Dragons just walked up mid and took everything.
And Ravens opting to give nearly everything at this point. It's now about a 10,000 gold lead when after that fire, it was only 5,000, and Zap pushing up left. Laz is meeting him here, and he just dashes in front of him.
Hits the pin. LASBRA can still keep the chase up once his dash comes back, but use a lot of it. Zapman just trying to find a way back to base. Scream is there to help with the bailout, but the Dragons, the rest of the team, are working up left side of the map. Titan goes down. It's Mike, Coast, and Nika dealing with the tier 2 as their Titan starts to push forward. Jade Dragons just keep up their grouping on left and force the Ravens for yet another defensive play.
About a minute left on this fire. Left Titan pushing up. Middle getting pushed down with these fire minions, and Laz trying to opt to push up that wave right now. Maybe didn't have a great early portion, mid portion of the game, but he's starting to become online. He's starting to get his items, the Rune Forge Protector. He's able to push out this mid wave. And little odd grouping in my opinion. I think Dardez needs to get out of left lane and head middle. This should be a 3-2 split. And then even somebody pushing down right lane, get that right wave pushed up. But this threat on the left, I guess maybe you could take the all-in fight around Titan, but it's still going to be very risky.
Titan is starting to group up. LASBRA on the 1v1 against Scream. 40% health left for Scream. He's going to have to go back to base. Meanwhile, it could be a full group of the Dragons on the left.
He's diving Titan?
LASBRA will just go for the Titan instead while the rest of the team starts working on the Phoenix and the fight. Their Titan down to about quarter HP. Phoenix still alive through all of it. And LASBRA not going to collapse in. The Jade Dragons unable to get the left side Phoenix.
An Onk was used in that fight. Dragons disengage even though they have that Titan, but now they're able to heal up a little bit. Left going to be pushing in, and Laz collapsing behind.
Walks in, finds 1v1 against Scream, goes in with the taunt to the ultimate. Big ult from Mike, on a Kraken follow-up from Nika. Let's Dardez get one, not just one, make it 2 for him and 1 for Laz. 4 dead in the blink of an eye from the Jade Dragons, and it's only Haddix left to defend. No ultimate on the Chaac. Dardez low, but Haddix can't stop all of the damage coming from the Dragons. It's Jade Dragons coming out on top in game number 1.
And a pretty confident middle portion of that game by the Dragons. They get that Fire Giant, and they're able to just take and push down everything. And I think a lot of it comes back down to the dual lane for the Ravens, just not very effective in these fights. Zapman, yes, does hit 20, but in those fights, if you think about who does more between Coast and Zap, it is all Coast. In support, is it Mike or is it Hurry? It's all Mike, and I think that's what I want to highlight. This is just a duo diff game.
I think that's the important part to also go back and highlight, because when we watched the Ferryman set just recently with the Dragons, they would win early out and duo, but then not really do anything with it, and that's what we were calling for at the start of this game. With you got that first blood, you got the lead, what are you going to do with it? It's Coast, just going to walk up and diff anybody who steps in his way.
Yeah, and then they actually pull that Fire Giant early, which, yes, they don't have the greatest secure. You don't have a traditional mid laner. You have the Poseidon, which is solid enough secure. And they actually just have the confidence to just take that 50-50. And I'm glad they did, because if you get that, as you saw, that game ends 3 minutes later.
The Jade Dragons on top in game number 1 of our first match of the playoffs. It's best 5s all week and best 5 for this one. We'll see if the Jade Dragons keep it up in game 2 right after this.
You should be getting tingles, man. It is around the corner at this point. Worlds, that's of course what we're all fighting for and what we're all waiting for, and that's what these teams right now, Mifflin, are competing for. 4 of them from this weekend are going to be going straight to that bracket in Arlington, Texas, live for January 12th through 14th, of course, competing to be champions. And we're going to be finding out the other 4 literally just the week before that. But for you right now, luckily, you know whether or not, A, you're going to be there or not, and B, who you're maybe rooting for to make it there. And the good news is that you also know where you're going to be, and that should be at shop.smiteproleague.com.
Ooh, nice.
And making sure that you pick up some of the beautiful, fantastic merchandise that's going on as well. We have a bunch of SWC merch that's going up there. Plus all of these games. Mifflin, it's just, man, I'm just really excited for World. I almost, there's part of me, I really want to watch every single game of playoffs, which I will be. But also part of me wants to, fast forward and just, be at Worlds. You know what I mean?
No, I get you for sure. I mean, this time of year, everyone's looking at the same thing. And, it's hard to put your eyes on the horizon. You got to stop and, breathe in the roses, smell the roses? I don't know.
Yeah, breathe in the roses.
Yeah, breathe them in.
Inhale the roses.
That's right. Live in the moment.
Thorn and all.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. But yeah, less than 60 days away from Worlds. And of course, all of that is now, I guess, clashing with each other here to determine at least 4 teams that are going to be going. Dragons are one step closer in a relatively long path to get there, right? You've got to find from this position 6 full wins. They've got 1. And over the Ravens, Mifflin, there were a couple of moments, early game, looks like LASBRA's going to pull ahead. Scream and crew stop that. And then the Dragons towards the late game. I'm going to give a lot of credit to Mike as well with some of the pulls, but LASBRA's damage, Coast's damage, it's just too much to handle.
Yeah, there was a lot that goes great for the Jade Dragons. I think a lot of it rounded from VaporishCoast as well. But there was a point in this game around 15 minutes in where I'm thinking to myself, okay, the Ravens, they got it from here. You've had Ven free farming in mid, actually getting the bully potential over Dardez. Things are looking pretty okay. Gold's relatively even. I think we're going to see them group up on objectives. And then what had happened was the Jade Dragons found a pick on duo lane. And then they found another pick on duo lane. And then they found another pick on duo lane. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's no lead anymore for the Highland Ravens. The Jade Dragons have completely started to run away with it. And by the time the Dragons were allowed to group up on neutral objectives, is something we had talked about in that initial death segment, their ability to do them was just incredibly fast. I will admit a bit of fault. Did not expect to see the Maman Brigitte in mid. And I don't think Dardez has a phenomenal laning phase. What he does have is a phenomenal team fight. Once he started to get involved in some of those engagements, things really started to swap up. It wasn't a Maman Brigitte mid anymore. Yeah. It was a Maman Brigitte late game, which is essentially just Maman Brigitte, and that's a lot of damage output, high survivability, very slippery. Just puts out that poke, says, all right, I've used my stun. I will jump into any of the enemies, and I will hang out there until they're either dead or my team has forced back everybody else. And it just made it so difficult for the Ravens to clean out any of those team fights. And some of it, I think, is a bit of a draft issue. Looking at the Ravens composition, I didn't see a clear, concise win condition. I didn't even see a clear, concise threat. I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the ideal team fight for that Ravens draft? It's, man, maybe if Tiamat can free cast for 3 ability rotations, they're just going to win the engagement. That's not exactly a great place to be in.
Yeah, it felt like, you look at the Dragons and you go, okay, there's 3 dudes on that team, maybe 4, that can realistically be the quote-unquote carry for that fight. And then I have, again, give a lot of credit for Mike, because there were pulls. When you watch Sylvanus, I feel like it's always easier to see the pulls that miss, but there were a couple that hit. And even though maybe
Phoenix line, it was nice.
When it's it just cracks things open so much easier for the team. And we were questioning the Dragon sieging. I think they answered that, and it also answered something I was worried about, because you go back to the set 2 weeks ago on Saturday. They were playing against the Ferrymen. And I think Coast is like 2-3 levels ahead. Feels like that's the lane. That's where you should be putting your pressure. And the Dragons did not play around Coast at all for that game. And I was really worried that they maybe weren't going to do that, even if Coast gets a lead here. But they changed that and assuaged those
issues,
worries. That's it. And concerns. So we'll see what they do. Picks and bans game 2 going to be so far the same layout. Ravens first pick, Dragons on the right-hand side. Bans also going to be the same. Chernobog, Athena from the Ravens. And it will be an op washed around those out, so they're going to keep all 3 exactly as they were. And so will the Dragons with the Naja, Yamoja, and Raijin. So this was Amaterasu last time for the Ravens. Do you expect to see them change their first pick?
I mean, Ama had a really good performance. And I am I'm a jungle hater. But when you're having a performance like he did previously, I think going back towards it just fine. It's not as if Amaterasu falls off in the late game. I think the concerns should lie here. Do you have an answer to the Poseidon Maman? Because the Chaac was not winning out in lane, and you don't lock in Chaac to lose lane, so you got to find a little bit more pressure there. Maman was losing mid, but was not dying in mid. You need to be able to knock her down, so I think a mid laner for the Ravens that has a bit more consistency in DPS, a little bit better follow-up on the Amaterasu might serve them well. This is astounding.
Something changes here, right?
I
Surely.
could not believe that we saw the Chaac lock in, because the performance from the Chaac was negligible. I didn't see a single play from Chaac where I was like, oh, nice, Chaac, right? Like, that's why you got it. Didn't dominate lane, didn't disrupt a team fight, and you could say it was sweeping issues. Team fight wasn't ever going to go their way because the Jade Dragons had put themselves in such a good position up until that point. But still surprised to see them go back towards it. Adaptation and third pick, Thoth. A little bit more damage output, better follow-up. I think that's the main thing, the ability to secure some of those kills. Pretty often we saw Dardez dropped low but just walk out. Good luck walking away from a Thoth.
It also feels like now, last time I had said it and we didn't get to talk about it too much, but like Ama was looking good, Chaac was looking good, but they both, aren't necessarily the ones that I'm like, this is the person who's going to put you on their back and carry you through the game. Thoth is going to be that guy, right? Now you've got all this setup to make Thoth do that. Whatever Zap ends up playing could be a big deal. But first, we should look at it. Anhur locked in, so the top 3 the same for the Dragons. Fafnir, Kuzenbo, the same bands, but it was a Ratatosker and an Aphrodite, and the Dragons snap lock in that Khepri immediately. Atlas for Hurry, and it looks like it will be a Hachi rerun for Zapman. So a couple of adjustments, right? Support specifically, but mainly in mid, it feels like, for the Ravens. They've made those adjustments and feel like otherwise the comp was pretty solid.
I suppose so. And it is worth noting, of course, even with the Hachiman, there were a few plays where had EI Jutsu just been lined up a little bit better, we're talking about solo kills, and Zapman's starting to run away with the game. So maybe potential to go back towards it and have just a different performance. That said, not a whole lot of confirmable AoE damage on the Highland Ravens, and Khepri making his way through the second phase of bans has now completely removed the, hey, we're going to knock down one guy play style. Wow. So a lot of potential here. Fenrir lock in. An old answer to the Thoth. Evade and punish just simply don't work against brutalize, so imagine Ven struggles a bit, at least throughout that early to mid game. This does, I think, confirm the Maman Brigitte back to mid. Poseidon over towards that soul lane. Fenrir out of the jungle, then your standard duo lane there for the Jade Dragons. Highland Ravens, I think pretty easy to glean where their draft's going as well. Amaterasu jungle, Chaac solo, Atlas, Hachi lane, Thoth in mid. This time, though, the issue that I had with the Ravens draft previously of where is your win condition on team fight? Do you have a massive threat that could just absolutely dominate? You do. It's Thoth Ultimate. So keep your eyes on Ven. He's going to need to have a pop-off performance, I think. And he's got good pieces around him to put him in that position. A triple frontline composition, protect the King's draft with a self-sufficient Hachiman means that you can really dedicate all your time to keeping Ven involved in the team fight, keeping him alive, and allowing him to stay involved. But there is a unique difficulty trying to peel someone that is not concerned with their own life. So if Dardez says, well, here's the thing, I'm going to go kill Ven and you can kill me, but I've got Scarab's blessing, things can be very difficult in some of those late game team fights.
And it's not just him who can jump back there, right? The Fenrir can also get back there pretty easily. And that's going to be another concern, like you had highlighted. But I do want to ask a question because, a couple things, like Unchained losing a second on its cooldown, that's nice.
That's good.
But it's not that massive of a change. The thing that's really interesting was the channel time for Brutalize being shortened, and only by 1.5 seconds, but from what I believe was essentially 1 Aegis time, so if you Aegis at the exact moment Brutalize started, you could avoid it, to now a little shorter than Aegis time, so you have a little bit more of a window. Is that going to, like, hurt him a lot, or is it mostly the same Fenrir?
I'm thinking it's just a buff. It's still just a buff. You're just doing the same damage faster, right? Is it easier to Aegis? Sure.
That's only up like 180 seconds.
And these are also pros, and they were going to Aegis it properly regardless. Yeah. So I think having faster damage output, having clear dive potential, looking at the draft from the Highland Ravens, I mean, they've got some answers to Brutalize. I'm looking at EI Jutsu for the most part, or maybe the dash from Amaterasu or the ultimate from Chaac. Those are pretty committal ways to stop a Fenrir from using Brutalize. You can now just unchained over a wall and have it up 1 second faster. There's going to be difficulty controlling the Fenrir for sure. But having a threat on the Ravens, I think, is significant. And I do not want to upplay Dardez's performance on the Maman in mid. That Maman was struggling against Tiamat. Thoth's a bit more of a bully.
Oh, we'll see. Can that Thoth bully him a little harder, or will the Dragons pull themselves up 2-0? The only way to find out is to jump down to Game 2 with the casters.
Thank you so much, Gore and Myth. That's right, it's Game 2 now with the Ravens and the Dragons. Once again, it's J-Mac inbound and Doug here to bring you the views onto the battleground. Very similar top 3 for both of these teams, at least to say. Exact same for the Jade Dragons. They go to the Poseidon, Maman, Anhur once again. Ravens, their only adjustment, they swipe away from the Tiamat, and they decide to go with the Thoth this time. Do you think that that change, coupled along with Hurriwind swap, is enough to help the Ravens throughout their struggling, I would say struggling mid-game more than anything?
Yeah, I think Myth highlights it perfectly. I think Dardez was getting bullied that game, and it was against a Tiamat. This game, Thoth, opposite side of the coin, a lot of threat in mid, kill potential, poke, good clear. Maybe not great jungle clear, but good enough. Where if Dardez is in the same spot he is this game that he was last game, it's going to be a lot different. He's going to be behind instead of ahead. So I like the change in the Thoth pick, but it's a good highlight that Laz picks the counter pick in Fenrir. They also have the Khepri to really help LASBRA dive. And then also, Atlas buff, the power reduction that you get in the ult, maybe that comes into play when you're diving actually into this Thoth in late game. Maman going to have to dive, Fenrir going to have to dive. Maybe that is just enough of a reduction for Atlas to actually be a backline peeler, because before, he had some tools, but it wasn't enough to be really great on the backline peeling. But now maybe that 3% really puts him over the edge, and he can actually, you know, really help his backline.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to bring up the Atlas buff that came through with his ultimate. A lot of times you just see that ultimate, drop it down, let it rip a little bit after. But now you get a little bit of extra benefit from leaving it on the ground for longer, as opposed to, you know, kind of just ripcording it more than anything. Is that, as you mentioned, power reduction goes up from the 2 to 3% per tick from that ultimate. So really going to come in handy in these late game team fights as you start getting the real big power spikes come on for these mid laners specifically. So I think we're going to be keeping an eye on these mages more than anybody in kind of this early mid game.
And I like the Ravens comp more this game than I did last game, but when it comes to those late game fights, we kind of saw the weakness of the Ravens comp last game, where they just didn't have great CC. There was like slows, roots, silences, stuff like that, but there was no Khepri pull, there was no Sylvanus ult, there was no Fenrir ult, where it's just, if this guy gets CC'd, kill him. And I think that's something that's big to highlight, and Laz actually dashes in a tower. Doesn't matter too much, but a little bit of poke. And the Ravens didn't really, you know, fix that issue, so I'm still a little worried about that Ravens late game.
You see Hurriwind stepping up to the shield buff.
He's only level 2.
Mike's going to go for the pull. Make sure to secure that one. And I think important to bring up the small change that did come to the shield buff. Less protections you get per level from it now makes it maybe not as valuable, still a valuable buff to have. Maybe not the end-all, be-all. Dardez used the dash to go to Scream, get a little bit of extra distance to dash out.
Laz is here.
Even turning back around because LASBRA's on the way.
He's
Stun
dead.
is good.
He's dead.
Jumps into the Unchained and the Brutalize on after. No silence to stop it this time. It's first blood for the Dragons in mid.
And Scream actually loses beads there also, gets taken down. He's getting back with no tier 2 item now. And you look at the other side, when Laz gets his back off, he's going to have this Jotun's actually a lot faster. He's invading that, the back camp, getting that red buff augment, taking that away. Actually, Scream does end up getting the tier 2, but still, Jones is going to be finished earlier.
Mike pulls back. Hurry, it's a frenzy from both supports to keep the fight going. Coast has already used his beads, and he's going to keep going. Aggressive jump in to hit Hurriwind, but the Impale gets stopped by Zapman. Impale still there, though, as Coast gets one. Zapman used his beads. It's now 2 versus 1, and health bars are similar on both sides, and, well, it wouldn't be a Coast kill if you didn't get a little bit of laughs after.
And the Anhur laugh on top of it. Really terrifying laugh. You don't want to get killed by Anhur and then laughed at by him, because you know Coast is going to do it again. He's going to go for another solo, and he's going to laugh at you again. Well, not another solo. Wait, he didn't solo him game 1, did he?
No,
No,
I don't
he
think
didn't
he
solo
got
him
the
game
solo.
1. Yeah. He's going to go for a solo for the first time, not again, and he's going to laugh at you.
He's going to laugh if he gets a solo kill or not. Just any kill that Coast
Yeah,
gets.
actually doesn't even have
That's
to be
going
a
to warrant a
solo.
laugh. That's just the Coast mentality. Doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter if he 5v1'd a person. If it's Zapman or if it's your dual lane, he's going to laugh. Nika, about half HP. Push back under the tier 1 tower. Still just going to be fine. A little bit of the early woes of the Poseidon up against Chaac Ama. Can't really clear as efficiently. Not a whole lot of kill for himself. But we do have level 5 now for LASBRA, and I'm wondering where he puts that priority on this Fenrir. Do you go back to mid lane, try and keep Venenu down, or do you go over to the dual lane now that you know that you have a set of beads away from their carry?
Yep, you go to this dual lane, and Hurry cannot play up anymore. Zap has no beads, and the Fenrir is here. And Khepri ult.
Zapman's used his jump, but Horse isn't
double
going to stop
kill,
Brutalize.
no.
He picks up Hurriwind. That's going to be 2 for the Jade Dragons, and who's going to get it? LASBRA will. 3-0 for the jungler of the Jade Dragons. Venenu charges up ultimate. Dardez in danger, but Venenu canceled the ultimate, and Dardez uses his dash to stay inside. Scream avoids the stun, but can he get out? Because now he's used all of his mobility. Venenu goes in with the dash, but misses
He's
it.
so slippery.
He needs the ultimate to get this kill. Will let it
The
rip,
trade.
but it's a 1-for-1 trade because Nika shows up and slams the Kraken right into Scream.
And a lot of time used during that entire fight also. Dual side of the map getting stomped by the Dragons. Mid side, a little bit of favor towards this Ravens comp. The Thoth now actually up a level, which when dual lane is going this bad, jungle is going this bad, you need a lane. And as Myth highlighted on the desk, even in these late game fights, it's on Venenu. But that pressure is on him even earlier now, because right now, down literally everywhere, it is just on Venenu.
And that kill took much longer than it probably
did.
needed to for the Ravens to finally take down Dardez.
Holy.
LASBRA baits a beads at a Scream. Didn't even have ultimate available. Uses jump to get away from Haddix. That is a fear mindset that LASBRA's just put into Scream. Beadsing under tier 1 tower without ultimate up.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage. I'm pretty sure. Can we actually see what he's maxing if he actually is looking to max the 3? He is looking to max the 3. I figured, but I wanted to make sure. There's so much damage there, and actually damage. Gold Fury getting low.
Gold Fury down to about a quarter HP, and no one on the Ravens even aware that this is happening, or they saw and they said, well, there's not much we could do about it. It's now a 2,600 gold lead for the Jade Dragons. This is a fast pace, and that's saying a lot considering Game 1 was also pretty speedy for both these teams. 5-1 as the combination of kills for the Jade Dragons. Their only death coming to Dardez, who, again, took so long to die that he was able to bait the enemy team forward, get the Ravens a little deeper in territory, and set up for Nika to pick up the kill.
And if you're looking at the dual lane right now, both Mike and Coast had already started stacking. And on the opposite side, Hurry is just starting to stack. And Zapman is still not stacking. So you're going to have a huge lead. Scream actually gets a dash out in middle lane.
Goes
They
to
caught the
Scream, but
dash.
he jumped out too early, and a Gamma Ray from Hurriwind will make sure to secure that kill. The Highland Ravens find their second pick, but once again, it's on to the mid laner. This Maman, as we've mentioned, struggled in the early game, still struggling for this time, but all the kills the Ravens have is just on that mid laner. You look across the board, everyone else is ahead on the Dragons.
I think you're happy to put behind this Maman, but trading out everybody else being behind for just this Maman being behind is not a good trade. Yes, she's going to be a very strong late game character, but this mid game is going to be dominated by Poseidon, dominated by Fenrir, dominated by Anhur. Venenu beats forced.
Venenu does dash away. Hurry picks
Oh,
up
no.
Coast. And now Hurry's got to try and see if he can run. Oh, from Dardez will get the knockup. Joe jumps in, but he misses the impale. Hurry can have a little bit of extra time on life, but Dardez, even going down twice, still has plenty of damage and follow-up to get a kill of his own. The Jade Dragons now with 6 on the board.
And this is not going to get any easier for the Ravens. This comp that the Dragons have, if it gets ahead, it is very intimidating. Fenrir pulls beads and then punishes you. Anhur pulls beads, punishes you. Nika on the Poseidon pulls beads, punishes you. I mean, even Dardez, who's behind, can pull beads and can punish you just because that character does do enough damage. And he's, at the worst of it, he's even right now. And that's supposed to be their lead for the Ravens.
Now, so we hit a bit of that lull. I do want to highlight the rotation that Coast had made for that kill, because going for the Gold Fury, that'll make sense. 5-6 minutes in, go for the objective, great. But seeing Coast at level 8 rotating to enemy green buff this early, this is kind of what we expected with him coming over with Mike. You know, what they were talking, we want that extra aggression and lead. Seeing Coast's rotation gives maybe a bit more confidence now to the Jade Dragons, their fans, and maybe even some of the doubters out there saying, yeah, this is a team that is going to play in your face. They're going for a purple buff invade now, stolen away by the Jade Dragons. Coast and Mike just keep playing that W key.
And they actually lost a little bit of this wave over in duo also, so not just that purple buff, also a couple melee minions. And so far, this game has been all Dragons, and they're not slowing down. They're still looking for invades. Gold Fury spawning in about a minute. Yes, Frenzy was just used, but they still have a lot of objective damage with Coast. Yes, their Secure's not great. Yes, there's always the risk of the Thoth, especially being level 11. But it's still just walking into this left side jungle, if you're the Ravens, is an impossible feat with how just scary ahead the Dragons are.
So if you are Screammmmm in this case, now seeing that your dual lane really can't hold up into a fight, Haddix is still a little bit behind, mid lane's kind of even. If you're Screammmmm in this case, is this a sit back and we just got to kind of farm style a game, or is this one maybe where you want to see Screammmmm try and get active into one of these other two lanes?
The problem is he's playing Alma. It's not a character that really gets active. It's a character that wants to play around kind of her team and play around objectives, but when you're level 9, down a level in jungle, when the enemy support is a level up on you, there's no really getting involved anyway, let alone if you're playing like an actual jungler that can kind of gank lanes. I mean, at least Fenrir, who's behind, can maybe pull a beads and then punish it later. Alma really doesn't do that, so I guess at this point you're just kind of at a farming, standstill if you're the Ravens. You can't really fight anymore. And the late game isn't getting any better. If you do go late, there's a Maman that's just scaling every point.
Speaking of beads pull, it's a jungle trade out, but Screammm's going to try and ult through. Dardez used the ultimate for immunity and still goes in for the kill. He might lose his life here for it.
Khepri
and will go down. No, it's a quick revive by PBM to keep the mid laner alive. What a trade out that the Dragons get. They take down Screammmmm, they pull a set of beads from him all the while, and they pick up a kill without losing Dardez.
And Dardez is able to actually farm out a little bit more before getting this back off. He's going to be backing for those beads. Actually didn't have those beads for this early portion of the game, something maybe we should have highlighted, but started that blink. Maybe that's why he got punished a couple of those times, but now backing for those beads, the Maman is going to be able to threaten a lot more. Now they have maybe 3 lanes they can even play through. And if you're a Ravens fan, or if you're on the Ravens right now, there's not really much you can do to come back. Maybe outsecure a Gold Fury, maybe try to trade Pyro for gold. But the Dragons putting pressure on this purple buff. Gold Fury up. They've done this before where they kind of pretend to pressure purple and then back up to Gold Fury. And it kind of looks like they're setting up something here already.
Coast is going to stand his ground. Purple buff does get secured by Zap, but it might be losing a couple of people for it. Hurriwind tries to dash away. LASBRA going to chase him with a brutalizing. Coast with the ult will take him down. You get purple, but you lose your support. What about after? Zapman still has beads and ultimate. Will be safe for the time being, but the Dragons will loop right back over to Fury.
Looking for a little pick on a Screammmmm. Beads down, dash forced out. No Gold Fury pull yet. And I think it's fair to play this a little bit slower. Play for your back camps, play for your purple buff. There's a bunch of farm to be getting. So I'm fine with them going for this and playing this a little bit slower, but you should be getting this Gold Fury somewhat soon. You want to keep pushing that lead. Yes, 3,500 gold is a lot, but it's 12 minutes into the game. We got to start spiking that a little bit more. And a great place to start is this beacon spawn at 12 minutes.
Beacon for the Dragons for now, nearly capped. But Hurriwind and Venenu step up, forces Dardez off it for the time being. Cap isn't moving much, but all it takes is one step off the platform. And the Jade Dragons will now get one objective. Rotation from LASBRA to the right side of the map. And now Screammmmm rotating in. It's a 2-level lead for LASBRA in the jungle. And he might have to take this 1v1. Ult's traded for the two junglers. The Jade Dragons, though, happy to take those trades. Just look at the amount of CDR LASBRA's got in kit. That ultimate's coming up much sooner than Screammm's.
But even at this point, Laz's ult is so valuable, and Screammm's is really not that valuable. So maybe not the worst case scenario for the Ravens. Maybe there is, you know, worse things. Obviously, Screammm dying is a worst case scenario there, but at least there's a little bit pressure off from you. No threat from this Fenrir for another 30, 40 seconds. Gold Fury's up, especially with that. I think that's a big highlight to have. No Fenrir ult and Gold Fury's up. It makes this pulling this Gold Fury just a little bit more risky. A little fight grouping on the left side of the map.
Stun on Coast. Impel to jump away. Zapman goes for the ult, but it's Aegis out by Coast. Banner used. They need a little bit more damage. Ult from Hurry's not enough, but Screammm will keep up the chase. Dash in gets one, but all the while, there's a breakout fight on the side of the jungle, and Mike gets another revive on Dardez. Made him punish not enough. Venenu needs multiple
Screammm
shots,
behind.
and he does get that one. That's 2 for the Highland Ravens, about to be 3 because LASBRA's collapsed on it. Mike, now the last one, it's going to be 4 versus 1, but Nika is on the way. If you dash too far in, there's going to be a
Thoth
Kraken
dash.
waiting for you, but it's only going to hit Haddix. Not enough damage to take down the solo laner, and Haddix is sustaining a lot back through Tier 1 tower under fire. Screammm pulled back, and Nika takes him down. Zapman and Haddix have got to run. Haddix bolts out through the jungle, while Zapman tries to run down lane.
Making sure Zap gets out here. They do actually have the ultimate from Khepri not available, so a little risky here. Actually, Nika taking tower beats. Aegis Force. Mike also going down. Nika getting dashed on. No damage is confirmed yet.
You need
Maybe
one.
he squeaks out.
You needed one. Venenu had one hieroglyphic shot, and he missed it. And that knockback from the tidal wave keeps Nika alive. Haddix just gets pushed a little too far back, but if you want to see the aftermath of that fight, I think the charts are the best way to reflect that. That was over 3,000 in favor of the Dragons going in. 1,000 swing for the Ravens is great, but now once more an answer back from the Dragons with Pyromancer.
Yeah, and that little comeback you just had is almost mitigated by that Pyro pull, and the Pyro confirmed by the Dragons. Haddix peeking over, making sure Pyro's not getting pulled right now. But I think that fight happens because when you have these mages in solo, you don't have that same ability to use TP. You go beads Aegis. So what are you doing? You're pushing lanes, backing, and at best, you're walking over after that. But if you're playing Warriors, you have the ability to go TP. You go blink TP. You could actually rotate to these fights and look for those big engagements, and that's what happened. But now Fire Giant getting pulled. 2/3 left on this Fire Giant, and the fight is going to be breaking out.
Hurry's jumped in. That ultimate's hit a
Frenzy.
couple of important people. Fire is low. Haddix takes down LASBRA, and the Dragons do get fired. Dardez able to take down one. Coast low, but Screammm even lower. Coast takes him down with the help of his team, and now a continued chase in. Hurriwind goes to the pull, but comes up empty-handed.
Root up
Mike
soon.
waiting for the root to try and grab Hurry. Does end up landing at the dash after. Tidal Wave makes sure that he goes nowhere to go. Dardez with a second kill in the fight. And now a push on a Tier 1 tower. Fire around the other 4 of the Jade Dragons. And their push will stop in mid. Could be a call for Fury instead.
Gold Fairy available after that Fire Giant. 3 dead on the Ravens side. But a 5k lead right now. Not a great ability to push there. I think it's fine. You know, play this a little slower. They're going to have good push out here. Get this primal. Get your big power spikes. But in that fight, we kind of see the strength of this Maman. No relics on Venenu. He just gets one shot, just wiped off the map, and there's nothing he can really do. And that's kind of like that breaking point the Dragons were waiting for. Yes, the Fenrir dominated early, but they don't need Fenrir damage anymore. Will he still do damage? Obviously, yes, he's building full damage. But you see at this point in the game, this Maman is starting to turn it on. She's going to be able to be threatening just about anyone. And we saw last game, the alternate timeline, something that allowed him to have that second health, or second life, and he didn't even have to use it last game.
It's now the Jade Dragons once again in firm control of lead, over 6,000 gold up for the Jade Dragons. Hurriwind trying to find an ounce of farm anywhere because he's 3 levels down to Mike, who is tied with nearly everybody or ahead on the side of the Ravens. Level 15,
Crazy.
Just got that compassion online. 17 minutes in the game is a really fast pace for your support to finish their starter.
Yeah, usually that's almost like the mid laner pace of getting level 15 around 17, but this game, Mike is actually the one getting there, has that massive spike, and opts for the Relic Dagger also, allowing them to kind of just go for those objectives and kind of just risk it. Oh, worst thing that happens, we have to drop it, and my Relics will be back up again in 50 seconds. And I'm also this Khepri, so we have a lot of survivability in these fights. And right now, Dragons 4 strong and left. LASBRA pushing down right. And the Ravens really aren't here to contest left.
If I'm not mistaken, Relic Dagger did get a buff this patch too. I think, what is it now, 50 seconds on the Relic cooldown with that? An absolutely crazy item. And do you think that now maybe gives not only more incentive for supports to pick this item up in general, but maybe also to go towards some of the glyphs that this item offers?
Yeah, I think for sure. Unfortunately, Eldritch Dagger, not really a great early game glyph. It reveals wards, it gives you those extra protections when you use your relics. Something that scales a little bit better when vision is more important around objectives, when that percent protection increase is a little bit more important. But for these early fights, Bewitch Dagger, the Witchblade iteration of Relic Dagger, reducing that auto attack speed, important at all points. It actually scales worse because you get so much attack speed on these hunters in the late game. So something that you could look for is that Bewitch Dagger. Also on the opposite side, Breastplate is still very strong. So there's always the chance of that Breastplate glyph, but we've not seen actually any by the Dragons so far.
LASBRA now a 2v2 because Dardez has shown up. The knockup hits Scream, and it's still an insane amount of damage going up against them. Haddix able to use the Torrent to get away, but he's got LASBRA and Dardez hot on his heels. Meanwhile, there's a death on the opposite side as Zapman fell down, giving another kill over to the Jade Dragons.
They're pushing mid.
Well, it's the dual lane of the Dragons pushing up mid lane.
And with these wins on both the opposite sides of both side lanes of the map, mid can just be pressured by Coast and Mike for free. A lot of safety with that Khepri ult. But instead of continuously pushing it down, they back up, they go for this Pyro. They're trying to get strong for this Fire Giant. Gold Fury is also coming up. Nobody picked up Bomb. Hopefully somebody goes back and picks that up. But still a lot of stuff on the map that the Dragons kind of wanted to get rather than risk it in mid. And actually, it looks like they're not going to be picking it up. They're leaving it.
Mike can't. Mike's looking at them going, guys,
he's begging.
I can't grab that. I've got double Chalice in pocket. Somebody, maybe Nika goes and picks it up. He's zooming.
Oh, this is going to be close.
Ooh, that was close.
Wow.
He only had a few more seconds to go. But Jade Dragons, so they get their Runic Bomb. And important now, only one Tier 2 tower left standing for the Ravens. We're hitting that same breakneck pace we did in game number 1, though with a maybe stronger lead for the Dragons pushing in. So we'll see what they do with this Runic Bomb. Did it fall back and go to the Fire Giant? Zapman walks too far forward. He finds PBM, or I should say PBM spotted him. Root catches him immediately at the ultimate. Zapman, he's as good as dead. Kill over to Dardez. 7-3 on the Maman. And a full 5-man grouping of the Dragons around Oni Fury. Should get that objective no problem.
And even better than the 7-3 is the level 20 spike on him, on Nika, and then going to be on Coast very, very soon. This game is getting out of hand for the Ravens. They are at a point where they need multiple mistakes from the Dragons. They can't really threaten here. Scream actually maybe even caught out. Nika finds him on the map.
Okay.
He's just wasting time. He's just wasting time.
He was hiding behind a totem hoping that you wouldn't see him. For the Jade Dragons, though, they'll send one over to distract Scream, make sure he can't go back to base. And now it will be a Fire Giant for the Jade Dragons. LASBRA can honestly just go for the kill. Wait out the ultimate. Scream still doesn't have beads.
Thoth here.
Use this dash. LASBRA on the way. 2v1. Doesn't have the distance for the dash. Still goes in for the damage and gets
the Bloodforge.
Bloodforge gives a life from 1.
He
2
missed.
the ult from Ven. Ven has got to get this kill. You've invested so much time. And he will do so. 1-for-1 trade. Knocks the fire off of Laz, but fires on the rest of the belt of the Jade Dragons. Haddix able to teleport under the tower with the help of his Torrent. But the Dragons finding a big pick over on left.
Good trade up by Venenu, though. Makes it a 4v4. If they want to opt to push down right, looks like they're just trying to get that last Tier 2, as you highlighted. There's only the one left. Might as well get that. Get your backs off. Get your spikes. We have now alternate done on Dardez. Nika's got his Blood-Soaked Shroud. Compassion was done on Mike 6 minutes ago, so he still got that. Coast is also getting his Leader's Cowl. The Jade Dragons are spiking very, very hard, and Zapman just dashed into this.
And Zapman's dead because of the dash from Maman. Chases him out with it. 1 for Zapman. Ultimate used by Nika. Doesn't find anything this time, but Hurriwind will have his life spared as the Jade Dragons continue to push their lead. I mean, we're breaking 14, nearly 15,000 gold that the Jade Dragons have up at this point of the game. And that's a dangerous 15K. We're not at like 35, 40 minute 15K. This is 22 minutes in the game. Like, we're not even seeing 6-slot items yet at this point.
Yeah, this is like 5th item in starter versus just 4 items. This is a really big difference right now. And the Jade Dragons also have that safety from that Khepri ult. So just going to be very strong in this fight. And just two pushing down left, two opting to push down middle. Laz coming out of base with no Fire Giant as he did die. But Middle Phoenix already down to 1,000 health.
I think a Runic Bomb used to try and weaken it down. Doesn't end up taking out just yet, but the Dragons will make sure to grab that. Scream loses his ultimate and about 60% of his health, forced back to base. So the Dragons with a 3-2 split. Keep the dual lane over in duo. Impale by Coast pushes Haddix back. As the rest of Jade Dragons still trying to whittle down the rest of this Phoenix's HP. Nika steps in, just help clear the wave.
Good poke.
The Ravens are just trying to keep poke game up, especially against Nika. His only sustain comes from his lifesteal items. Meanwhile, dual lane, it's an ultimate used by Hurriwind just to keep Coast and Mike out. The Ravens are holding firm on their defense.
Holding firm indeed, but such a good amount of poke by the Dragons so far. And I think right now it's kind of eyes on Venenu. If they're to win this, if they're to defend their Phoenixes, a lot of it relies on Venenu hitting a big ult or just getting enough poke to push back the Dragons. They have this Fire Giant to sustain, so they have a little bit, but they don't have a true healer.
No, when you see Haddix teleports in, Scream, ult onto PBM, and only to PBM. Coast is taking a 1v1 against Zapman and winning. By the way, that's no crit for Coast and crit on Zap. That's just winning that trade out. Haddix goes in with the ultimate. LASBRA pulls back Hurriwind, and it's out 3 in the back line, and a Kraken is barely going to clip through Hurry, but it's just enough for Coast to take him down. The Jade Dragons found their one. Venenu charges ult, but with LASBRA too far, we'll cancel that one out.
More good poke by Venenu, but the all-in potential by the Dragons is just too much. They're able to push down left, get this left Phoenix. Middle getting threatened. Venenu ult off the mark. And now he does not have this for this middle Phoenix. 5 strong here. You have Fire Giant on 4. This should be slowly, but it should be confirmed by the Dragons.
With that bracer nearby from Mike, that extra power afforded to the Dragons. Dardez and Nika push into the jungle. 4 versus 5 for 10 more seconds. Hurriwind
Frenzy
will
available.
have ultimate on respawn, but Dardez is not going to lay that respawn a chance. Venenu taken down by the soul spike damage afterwards. Dardez gets 1, making a double for the mid laner of the Dragons. Hurriwind is back. Picks up LASBRA, throws him towards Zap, and it's a beads out of Laz. The dive onto the Titan from the Dragons. They got all 5, and not enough damage from the Ravens to keep them back. Dardez dashes in, but it's right into the fountain. Will dash out, and the Dragons in 25 will go up 2-0.
Miff said on desk that he did not mind the Ama prio again. I'm here to state, stop prioing the Ama. This Maman is doing way too much, even if it is in mid. I agree with Miff that I think she's a better jungler. But even in mid, she's doing this much. This Poseidon in solo is doing a ton. Even if the Chaac is mitigating it, it's just late game. These mage 80s or these mage solos sustain so much. They poke well. They do all these things well, and there's a reason they're getting prioed. I want to see this Ama drop down the prio list for the Ravens. Kind of not necessarily go back to the drawing board. You don't have to reset everything, but maybe prio this Poseidon, prio this Maman. Try something different. Not the Ama.
Or maybe if you do the Ama, put in the soul lane or something like that.
Could try that too.
This jungle Ama just hasn't really gotten a whole lot of value. Scream just feels maybe a bit uncomfortable on the pick. Maybe just trying it because other junglers have. Not sure what's been going through, but the Chaac hasn't been working out well for him. The Ama jungle hasn't been. Meanwhile, you look at the opposite side, it's been nothing but success for the Jade Dragons, especially this Maman. I gotta agree, something's got to change in picks and bans. We'll see if that does happen in Game 3 right after this break.
Well, it is a 2-0 lead here for the Dragons, Mifflin, and unless things change up, they're looking like they're in a good spot. That being said, notoriously difficult converting that 2-0 to a 3-0 for the Dragons. So there's still a little bit of a hurdle maybe to overcome for them just from past history. Although, again, with Vote, not Coast, maybe that's the difference maker.
Maybe. I think a lot of what's happening right now is the Ravens are shooting themselves in the foot. I would like to see, even with a great performance in Amaterasu in Game 1, I want to see Screammmmm on a carry. I want to see better support picks, just full stop. Feels like Charon and Atlas is putting the Ravens on hard mode. Because there are issues with the Jade Dragons composition. Namely, I just don't think Maman Brigitte is doing a great job in mid on her own. We even see it here in Game 2, where Thoth is down 1-3, I believe, thanks to those Fenrir rotations, and Maman is still only like a half level up because he's struggling so much to deal with that poke. So I think if the Highland Ravens meet the Jade Dragons on even footing, just grab some of the quote-unquote easy picks, things would look a lot better for them. That said, got to talk about what the Jade Dragons are doing well, and it is pushing leads. These guys are very good at winning harder right now. Love what I've seen around objective play. They're absolutely dominating on the dive. They know when someone's weak and how to keep them weak. I mean, we saw, what, 3 continuous rotations over towards Zapman. Yo, Steve, your bead's down? Unlucky, buddy. Dardez is here, and you're going to die to it. So I think Game 3, I'm really looking at the draft. I feel like Games 1 and 2 were decided before they loaded in, and that just cannot happen again.
And I have to give, I think, a lot of credit. I mean, first off, we've seen Dardez do it twice in a row, but LASBRA then being on something that can dive, when you add the Khepri into the mix, it just made it so much simpler for him.
Yeah, Khepri GG'd the last draft, I think.
Yeah, and on top of that, I feel like, and I have to give shout-outs to Nika, that one maybe wasn't the most wondrous to end it on. But in reality, this has been a team, like, the Krakens have been hitting relatively often, just been a huge boost whenever you're a Poseidon for your team. And then on top of that, I think Coast, he's just built different, man. I don't know what it is. He wants to fight, and I guess it's also the knowledge, right? Again, you have a Khepri behind you. If it's not going to Dardez or LASBRA, then you can jump in all of a sudden on this Anhur and get something done. And when you're playing a pick that has looked this good for you, this consistently good for you, and nobody's taking it away, you're going to look just really, really good.
That's the Jade Dragons all the way across the board. Dual lane combined 4-2. Compare that to the dual lane of the Highland Ravens. I won't say it out loud because there's no way to say it nice. Dardez 10-3, and Nika, which has been playing into what I can only assume the Highland Ravens are considering a counter matchup, because I'm not exactly seeing what the Chaac is locked in for. That's not to say Chaac has done poorly. I mean, Haddix undying, but could it have been more damage? Could it have been more dive, more disruption? Maybe. Hasn't really struggled on that Poseidon in a Chaac matchup either. So I just really got to see something different in the draft. Or maybe it's all been execution on field. The Highland Ravens are 100% utilizing their brains, and they do have the superior composition. They just haven't been able to utilize it. It's hard to say. when things go as awry as they have been, the Jade Dragons just establishing dominance on map, I believe 2 games in a row now at around that 12 to 15 minute mark, which is just around that time where the team fight phase begins to start. And if you're starting the game off on the back foot, maybe your composition, even if it is good, won't look as good.
Well, game 3, the Ravens have a lot to try and figure out. So they take first pick one more time. Dragons will be second pick, again with a 2-0 lead. And the Ravens bans are exactly the same. Chernobog, Athena, Opwash. The Dragons bans are exactly the same. Naja, Yamoja, and Raijin. But there is the adjustment. Maman goes from a second pick with the Dragons to top pick for the Ravens. And Miff, do you think that's going to be enough to shimmy them into a more successful spot?
Yeah, I think getting Dardez off of the Maman was big because Dardez is very good at Maman. If I don't agree that Maman is a good mid laner, I will say Dardez is a good Maman player. I saw it in the team fights. I saw him playing solo agent in a lot of those engagements, playing around the back, looking for flanks, around objectives, and it was just absolutely dominating. Zapman wasn't allowed to play. There was the one play where Ven tries to steal Fire Giant, and he dies before he's even allowed to channel his ultimate. So I think Maman, good. Dardez, good at it. Do I want to see it on Ven? I don't think so. I think Maman still, even with 2 games of data now, is a jungler. Just really like how she interacts on map, so I would be surprised if the Ravens take it towards mid. On the other hand, though, the Jade Dragons stick to their strategy. Clearly, Maman not the keystone of that composition. They just like the Poseidon, and Anhur has been, bar none, VaporishCoast's best pick, full stop. Has gotten a lot of dominance on it, has played very aggressive, has controlled all of his lanes. So I think Anhur a great lock-in. And now the Poseidon with Maman taken off the board is a flex pick. Is it likely to go solo? I think so. But there is the threat of, hey, that could just be the mid laner, or that could just be the jungler.
Now, I'm curious because, you know, when I'm looking down onto the field, a dive assassin, for lack of a better term, right? Maman is magic damage, but assassin nonetheless in style. Feels like that's what Dardez was really bringing to the comp. And so you have that capability still to go for something similar for LASBRA. Probably won't see it here. We'll see it later down. But I'm kind of curious, like, where do you think, like, Pele is and maybe other assassins in mid? Like, is there a position where that's what Dardez could try to flex into right now? Or do you think that he should maybe switch back to standard?
Well, standard has very seldom worked for Dardez in the past. He is one of the more eclectic players, so I think sticking to Godpool probably the best for him. So if I were to say Dardez back to standard, I'm talking about like Hera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So is that an option? Certainly is. Aphrodite locked in for the Jade Dragons. Historically, that has been a support pick. Does bring over a good deal of survivability to your duo lane, a little bit more CC immunity thanks to that Undying Love. The protection share, of course, helps out your divers, but the Jade Dragons haven't got any of those just yet. So we'll see. We do know as well, and if we're willing to go back to Season 9, Season 8, PBM is not the only Aphrodite player on this team. We've seen Dardez take this pick too. Just not sure that Aphrodite is in the best spot as a mid laner right now. So I think not exactly a veiled pick. I would very much so assume that is the Jade Dragon support.
And, you know, we've talked a lot about sieges for the Dragons. One of the things that has always stood out to me is this: it's the Afro pick. And based on history of this game, until we see something different, you can maybe assume a little bit of Poseidon solo, right? So maybe we're still waiting for a mid. Maybe we're going to get a warrior or something for Nika. But are you a little worried? I was thinking the same thing. I think it was this last game where Khepri was like the tankiest person on the board, but not a lot of other people could dive, and Khepri doesn't necessarily like to be the one in the front of the team fight. With Aphrodite hanging further back, wanting to hang back, not necessarily super tanky, Poseidon being a mage, like, are you worried a little bit about the ability to siege for the Dragons?
It depends on what we see developing around the Highland Ravens composition. As of now, Ul's the only one that's going to be able to keep the waves out with ease. If that is Maman mid, I would argue that the Dragon Siege will be relatively easy. It's similar to taking like an assassin in a mid. It's just not the best on base defense. So we'll see as the draft starts to develop. I think finding some initiation, though, is the crux of your statement. Do the Jade Dragons have a level of initiation that's easy to go for that would open the door to start peppering some damage into a Phoenix or a Tier 2 tower? And I'd argue, as of now, no. But what they do have is very strong counter-engage for Maman Brigitte in particular. Maman's going to come into that back line, eat a kiss, and all of a sudden you're turning and dealing as much damage as you can. And we do get a little bit more clarity on the Jade Dragons composition. This is one of Dardez's 2 mage picks.
Yep.
When I think of Dardez mages, it's Hera and it's the Morrigan. And when they're available, when he's allowed to play them, tends to look very good on it. I imagine we're going to see some very interesting interactions between the Morrigan and Maman Brigitte. First off, you can take it away from him, but Dardez is going to find a way to play that god again, clearly. And secondly, I think it's a game of who sees who first. Did Maman make contact with Morrigan first? Does she connect the dot? If yes, stealth's not going to be allowed to channel, and you're probably going to have to go immediately into a changeling to get some safety. If Morrigan spots Maman first, it's, all right, well, you could dash into me, but you're stunned. You're Dark Omened. You're dead. So very, very, very low TTK matchup between the two of those 2 mages. It'll be very interesting to see how that one develops. But still looking at the Jade Dragons composition, lacking in initiation and lacking for physical.
Watching the Ravens carefully, see what gets locked in, mainly to confirm or deny Maman. And I think with Terra getting locked in, that leads me to one question I want to ask you in a second, but it's mainly watching for this last one. Baba Yaga from top to 9th. It feels like for a long time she was a must ban. Do you like Baba? And more importantly, do you like Baba along with the Maman in the jungle?
Is Prophetic Cloak still in the game?
Yeah.
Oh, then yeah, Baba's pretty good, I think. Just going to get a lot of protection very early on. Going to be very difficult to shut down. And even looking at where the damage is coming from for the Jade Dragons, I think there's going to be even compounded difficulty there once the Home Sweet Home is channeled. Not exactly the easiest time locking her down. Amaterasu to round out the draft here. There's some of that initiation. Slow initiation. Got to get all 3 ticks of that Dazzling Offensive before you knock anyone to a stun. But it's not even as if there's the greatest long-range follow-up here from the Jade Dragons either. This could be a draft from the Dragons where they really try to emphasize objective play again. And I think that's always potential when you have a Poseidon on your team. Your ability to burn through Gold Fury and Fire Giant incredibly high. And then the dive potential of the Morrigan just catching someone slipping or turning into the Maman Brigitte and trying to go for these crazy high DPS plays still certainly there. Whereas the Highland Ravens, I think this is the best draft they've had this entire set, and I don't think it's particularly close. I'm seeing clear win conditions on team fights. I'm looking at Baba Yaga for that. I'm seeing clear initiation. You got Chaac and Terra there. Damage output's going to be very high. Kill secure from the Uhl. Hail of Arrows just really good. I am a big fan of this Ravens draft. I'd give them much better odds here in Game 3.
So much better odds, but do you still, is it a necessary, not just necessary change, but like looking up against what the Dragons have, especially with momentum now off 2 back-to-back wins, is that going to cause some trouble?
It could. It really could. This is a composition from the Jade Dragons where if duo lane just starts to dominate, you're not wrestling control back from an Anhur Aphrodite. It just simply will not happen. Uhl takes a little bit of time to build some of that itemization. Terra needs some of that tankiness too, so once Anhur gets rolling, if he has a lead, he's going to stay rolling. That's how inertia works, and then you can start to leverage this composition that Jade Dragons have towards those objectives, which is exactly the position they want to be in. If I'm looking at the Highland Ravens and where they want to play, I think as antithetical as this is to the standard Uhl game plan, maybe just go ahead, ignore his lane, try and focus on mid, try and keep this Morrigan down and out, maybe drag some of those rotations over towards the soul lane, play on that side of the map, and then once you have leads there, just try and transition that over towards the duo lane. I think starting in the duo lane would just favor the Dragons.
So specifically looking towards something I'd asked about earlier, which was, you had said Uhl was maybe the main defense when it comes down to dealing with minions on sieges. Now they got a Baba Yaga. If the Dragons get ahead, how do they break that base?
That's the hard part. That is a very difficult point of this composition. You really hit the nail on the head there. I'm not seeing easy initiation at all. I'm not seeing the walk-up freeze or the walk-up wall or the I abducted one guy. I'm seeing Kiss, which is a single target long-range CC, so Aphrodite's not even putting herself in the line of fire. And I'm seeing Dazzling Offensive. That's going to have to work through just a ton of CC immunity inherent kit, a lot of survivability, dashes, escapes, things to just avoid that 3-piece stun. It's going to be difficult for the Dragons unless they find a pick first. And they've got a composition that could do that.
Well, they've got a challenge to overcome. It's not just the 2-0 lead, it's their draft. We'll see if they can do it or if the Ravens will bounce back when they need to here in Game 3.
Will the Jade Dragons find that 3-0, or are we going to be going to game number 4? Let's find out in Game 3. It's J-Mac, Inbound, and Doug. Thank you so much over to Gore and Mifflin on the desk. And a big switch up now. for the Highland Ravens, taking the Maman away from the Jade Dragons, and that was so pivotal for them in the first couple of games to really get that late game damage output. Now putting it over onto Scream and giving Scream more of a traditional carry style of God. How do you like the Maman moving over now to this Highland Ravens roster?
I'll say it. It's more than the Maman. This entire Ravens draft is just better, like, top to bottom. I think mid lane, I think Venenu played fine on the Thoth. I think it's just Thoth is very exploitable. Baba on the other side, very hard to deal with, especially when it goes late. I think Zap on this Uller makes a lot of sense. I think their dual lane with this Terra makes a lot of sense. I don't mind this Chaac solo. I know Myth isn't a big fan of it. I think it really mitigates what Poseidon wants to do, and then late game it gives you a lot of damage, a lot of backline dive, and I think that kind of tells you what the Ravens want to do with this game. They're diving the backline, and they're going to be trying to just spread out as much damage as possible with as big of abilities as they can, a lot of tick damage, proc that Terra ult, and I think this Ravens comp, the team fight is going to be incredible. It is going to be so hard to fight 5v5 against the Ravens comp. But that's what the Dragons comp is going to avoid. Look at how strong, like, avoiding 5v5s and fighting 2v2s, 3v3s, and looking for 1v1. Scream's actually taking a ton of damage in mid. Holy!
Good lord. Scream down to 100 health now with a couple potions to tick back up, but the dive and turn and burn from Dardez and LASBRA there now put on display. Venenu on the Baba Yaga, and I think highlighted there a little bit by the desk, but maybe we can break into a little bit further. Baba Yaga coming into this event the weeks prior in the regular season, she was the top pick, top ban. If you're playing mid, you're playing Baba Yaga. Going all the way to 9th pick, dropping in priority. Do you think the nerfs that came her way are a product of that, or do you think just other gods have maybe risen up a bit?
Yeah, I think it's 100% the nerfs. I think not being able to stack as efficiently is a big hit to her. However, I didn't expect her to fall this much. I expected her to still be top 3 pick, just not really banned anymore. Maybe she gets banned in the second phase and actually pause on that. Scream sitting left side. Coast is really safe. This is going to be a difficult kill.
Good jump away.
Big stun.
Scream. Get some crazy quick DPS, but not a whole lot of it just yet. Emphasized by in game 1 and 2. Maman not the hardest hitter in the early game, but when you got a Terra and an Uller to back you up, could have some good burn potential. Highland Ravens, though, trying to get active over in dual lane. And I think, at least for my money's worth, that's the call. I mean, the Jade Dragons have been fragging in dual lane for the first couple of games. Maybe right to put some pressure that way.
Oh, for sure. I agree 100%. Try to mitigate, especially when you're looking at the 2v2 that the Dragons have. I mean, Coast already jumping in again. Good little trade here. But winning out is just going to be the Dragons. If you're not killing, Afro's going to be sustaining up so much. And Zapman actually gets a burst by the 1-2 combo, or the auto-2 combo by Coast there. Zap just gets blown up.
Why was Zap just standing his ground? I guess maybe he was banking on Hurriwind to soak up the Impale or something, but Hurriwind was on the other side of that team fight behind Mike and Coast. And Mike and Coast, they just walk forward. Take down Zapman, another first blood for the Dragons to leave all 3 games now. It's been first blood, 2 of them in that duo. It's about to be another one. If Zapman didn't have those beads, it does have him able to jump away, but now gone without a relic for another 2.5 minutes.
And that 2v2 is not close. And then you also dig a little bit deeper. Hurry used his frenzy there. Mike didn't use a relic at all. And Zap died, and now Zap is dying again. And the problem that we had in game 1 and game 2, where it was such a big lead in duo for Mike, for Coast, and they were just very impactful, that's going to be happening again right now.
Zap. All right, so it's a Laz in danger. Frenzy pop by the Amaterasu just to bail himself out. Maybe put a little bit of threat towards Scream, who also fell low during that, with Dardez's rotation over. But now, the Quacken used, secure the totem. Hey, that totem's big. Make sure you get some value from that ultimate there from Nika. But I think, again, kind of just talking about the Ravens, talking about Venenu versus Dardez in this case. Haven't seen the Morrigan too much. Very oftentimes we actually see it banned away from Dardez. Is there any, maybe besides the Maman, is there any other like immediate targets that Dardez might seek to go to with its ultimate?
I think Chaac is a fine transformation. Gives you decent damage, a lot of survivability, and a good team fight. So if you're like kind of fighting the problem is when you're looking at Dardez and looking at the rest of the Dragons comp is Laz isn't really a high damage DPS character. Nika's not really a high damage character. Mike's not really a high damage character. So you kind of need to transform into somebody that does a lot of damage, which is why I think I agree with you that Maman is the best. But in maybe some random 2v2 scuffle where Coast and Dardez are together, maybe I see a Chaac transformation, something for a little bit more survivability. But I do agree. I think it's mostly going to be Maman.
So we'll keep an eye on transformations for Dardez, and then for Venenu, keep an eye on the build. Kind of as Myth mentioned, as long as Prophetic's in the game, Bob was probably pretty good, but as highlighted a little bit earlier from you, and by the nerf that came her way, it takes a little bit longer to stack that Prophetic. So once she gets that third item, usually it's just 3-4 minutes and we see that Prophetic usually stacked. Might be a few extra minutes before we see that item come on fully online.
And it's not just Prophetic, it's also Book. It makes it so you're just overall going to be stacking everything slower. Maybe a little bit of poke here onto Hurry. Could be an all-in transformation here by Dardez.
Dardez does transform into the Maman, gets the knockup onto Hurriwind, just canceling out that fire. He got 2 games of practice for this very moment. And Dardez strikes once more in mid, a kill for himself, his first in the game.
And a good transformation there by Dardez. Enough damage on the transformation. Hurry ult, but it's not enough. And just like that, 2-0 for the Dragons, but this is not a big lead so far. This is not the same Dragons we saw in Game 1, Game 2. They were dominating mid, they were dominating solo, dominating duo. This game, it's kind of even solo, even in mid, even in, not even in duo. That's a lie. This is a bit of a bloodbath in duo. Zapman is behind again.
Yeah, but Zapman's been behind pretty much the entire set. It's just been Coast really dominating this duo lane over anything. PBM just now takes over to 6. Hurriwind goes aggressive. Stuns out Coast, but as long as Mike's got a heal available, Coast should be just fine. Doesn't manage to clip Hurriwind with the Lovebirds this time. Will still keep himself alive. Allows Zapman to go back to base, pick up Transcendence pretty late compared to where Coast has been. I mean, he's already got over 20 stacks on his Devourer's Gauntlet, while Zapman might not even be able to get all 6 of these stacks on the wave.
Yeah, Zapman, as you highlighted, very far behind again in this lane. And if you think about devs, you compare it to Trans kind of spikes and what they kind of provide you. Trans is really just power, a little bit of cooldown when you do finish stacking it. And on the opposite side, lifesteal, power, pen from this dev's glove. So it's kind of like a huge advantage that Coast has just in stacks. And then also just finishing the item is going to be a pretty big advantage. Mike taking a little bit of damage here.
Healing up, Scream is here, throws out the snake. Ultimate's still available with Coast jumping in. That should pay out. Ultimate's not enough to take down Mike, and an ultimate response from him, Undying Love used to guarantee his life bar. Jade Dragons only lose out on the one ult from Mike versus Scream going for the full commit along with Hurriwind now to turn back towards Haddix, but Haddix is fairly tanky himself. We'll throw out a few laughs, a few taunts for the rotation by LASBRA, but Haddix just fine over in the solo lane for now.
I find it funny he walks into the 1 because he knows he's going to do no damage just to get the Gaia proc. Just a little thing that I thought was pretty interesting, pretty funny. Haddix healing a little bit up from that knock-up with that Gaia. But as we've talked about kind of a little bit in the solo lane, nothing really going to be happening. Reliant on junglers if they are going to kill, and even if junglers do come over, a lot of the times we're just going to see that. Haddix gets pressured a little bit, but he's not going to die. On the other side, though, I actually think there's an opportunity for kill potential on Nika. I think Scream provides somebody that can kind of tank the tower and then dive into Poseidon to stop tanking, and then Haddix takes over. So curious to see if maybe some solo lane potential for the Ravens. But during that, right on left.
Beads by Zapman, stuns on the Coast. Now Hurriwind has used his second dash. Jade Dragons can keep up their chase. Dark Omen hits, and that's more than enough to help Coast land that kill. Combo of Dardez and Coast Ultimate. Make sure that Hurriwind goes down for a second time this game. Zapman not only has no beads, he has no mana to jump in by Coast, and now Coast can just collapse in. Peppering autos, but not enough. Already used ult, missed out on the impale. Zapman spared, but only because Coast missed just about everything else.
Is Dardez not playing like a man possessed right now? This entire set, I feel
crazy.
like this has been one of the best sets I've seen from Dardez all year. He's making plays in duo, he's making plays in solo, he's playing around mid very safely. Team fights, he's kind of dominating. And his transformation this game already, it looked fluid. It looks like he's just kind of on right now.
Mike tries to steal away the mids from Scream. Doesn't do so. Hard to steal those away as an Aphrodite, but a level up for Mike, a level up for Coast. Meanwhile, across the board, it's only Haddix and Scream ahead for the Highland Ravens, even with Dardez' rotations. 1-0-1. Has kept him just ahead of Venenu for the time being. But overall, hasn't affected the lead too much. Jade Dragons only up 600 gold to 1200 XP.
A dive.
A kill onto Nika would be great for the Ravens. They're going to dive in. Hurriwind goes. Kraken
Beads.
used against Scream, but he gets the beads from the jungler and the kill.
Good kill.
Onto the solo laner. Haddix gets the credit for that one, which should help out his lane.
And this is what we wanted to kind of see in the previous 2 games. The problem is, Scream's not playing characters that can really kill / dive. But this game, Haddix can kill and dive. Scream also provides a lot of damage. Also, Laz actually frenzying and walking over.
Goes in for the ultimate on a Scream, gets the stun. The mirror's not enough damage, and Laz is getting turned on now by Haddix. A dive in by Scream, waiting for some extra help, but Haddix will throw down the axe. He needs the torrent, he needs a little bit more, but he just can't close the gap. Haddix able to get out of it this time. LASBRA lives on. The Jade Dragons unable to get the kill that they were looking for. Such a heavy commit by Laz just to eat a whole heap of damage by Haddix.
Yeah, he actually almost got one shot by Haddix there, and Haddix level 12. On the other side, Laz level 9, a 3-level lead there. Haddix takes a, LASBRA takes a beating by Haddix. And also, I'm kind of impressed with this Chaac. I know we've not seen it very much. It did get the buff in the recent patch as we highlighted in Game 1. But the damage seems a lot higher. The safety, the character just seems to be doing like a surprising amount of damage.
Yeah, that buff to the torrent, that extra pretty hefty bulk of damage has really helped us clear, and as we've seen to some of these enemy gods, also really help out on the damage to them. And maybe couple that just with the Stone of Gaia. Maybe it's just the matchup that he's playing into, so getting those free Stone of Gaia procs just when you think he's in danger. Tidal Wave or a Kraken hits, and seal up a whole lot of that right back. But now it's teleport from Haddix. Axe is used. Coast gets an immunity from PBM's ultimate, but Haddix gonna keep it the chase. Quick stun by Mike. And now they're gonna have to go head towards LASBRA. He's clearing out a camp all the while. The entire team's being drugged to him. Mike doesn't have the ultimate. He's stunned out again a second time, and now it's an ultimate from Venenu. The whole group of the Ravens have showed up. Mike is low, but he's still alive for a moment, but Zap and Scream couple up and take it down too. The duo of the Dragons falls, and the Ravens will head right to the Fury.
And the Ravens, kind of in most of these sets, have been really reliant on Haddix rotating over, and actually it looks like they're going to defend this Gold Fury.
LASBRA dashes out. Nika's here. Kraken hits Hurriwind, but it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. They need some extra follow-up, and Nika's already nearly taken out. Big stun by Scream, and big follow-up by Ven. Takes down 2 more. It's just LASBRA back here to try and defend the Fury, but there's not much that he can do. No ult, no relics, means a Fury for the Ravens.
And this Maman, not even supposed to be an early mid-game character, supposed to scale for that late game. But now 203, going to be getting online very, very early. I actually thought he was going to set up maybe a kill onto Coast there. He's going to look around the corner, but he gets his back off. He's going to be getting massive spikes. He's got that Doom Orb already finished, gets that Divine, starts up his next item. And we've seen how much damage this character can do late. So this is a... I don't want to compare it to like a Kali, like a ticking time bomb, because that's a different kind of like late game character. But the one-shot potential this character provides, while not as safe, is still something you have to always be thinking about it in the late game.
That's kind of the question right now is, how much later does late game need to be for this Highland Ravens comp? Because Venenu's been putting out some good damage numbers. Maman's been putting out some good damage, and it's all turned back to Dardez once more, but Scream dashes into the tower this time. He'll still commit for some of the damage, and the damage from the passive. Again, the Soul Spike kill. This time it's for Scream. Haddix shows up, deals a bit more damage to Mike, and the Highland Ravens have now fully taken control of this game. A 3,000 gold lead, and there's still a pyro up for the team to head towards. Scream can't really tank this one up, but he's got plenty of damage to help out the squad. Highland Ravens in the full driver's seat now. The Dragons step up to try and steal this away, and they do! Mike and LASBRA couple up to take that away. The Highland Ravens, they won the fight, but they lose the objective.
Haddix not opting to use the ult there to kind of push out the Dragons to secure that for themselves. Holds it, and they get burned, losing that pyro. Still a very big lead for the Ravens, about 2,500. But confirming that, getting a little bit more gold, and then getting something that can pressure the next tower you go for with that pyro. Now you have it on the opposite side. The Dragons down to that 2,500, but they now have an opportunity to maybe push a tower.
Zap getting some good damage against Coast. Some against the Waves, some against Coast himself. Zapman switches to the Axe form for a little bit of bully potential, but it is just a lot of poke towards Coast. But by nature of Coast having those devs, able to really sustain a lot of that back up. But you can see a big difference in the build paths. When we were seeing some of the Ulers before, they were running more towards the standard Hunter build. It's Zapman who's sticking to the tried and true, more ability focus.
Yeah, we saw a lot of crit builds coming out with the Uller. Zap still has an opportunity to, maybe with that Fail Not Deathbringer next 2 items. But with that Trans Hydra's really good poke right now, really good auto attack cancels. So he's very threatening, and we saw the poke potential he has. Yes, no sustain when you have Play God like Uller. You don't have any true sustain that you build in from items, but he has the built-in sustain, so if he does take a little bit of poke, he always has that. And with kind of how badly that early game went with Zap, he's came out with a little lead right now.
And slightly ahead of Coast by nature of also rotations from Haddix. And I think that's the second part
100%.
of this Chaac. Was in the first couple of games, never really saw these teleport rotations from him. This game, it feels like as soon as that relic is off cooldown, Haddix is over in dual lane, Haddix is in mid lane. He has been all over this map.
Yeah, Haddix is really making his mark this game. We saw a couple TPs already. Both of them have been very beneficial for the Ravens, and it's kind of got him a lead over in solo lane also. With that TP coming up at 30, Gold Fury also coming up around 30. We have that potential for another fight to happen around Haddix and his TP. Level 16, also level 16 for both the mid laners. 3 highest levels in the game. This Gold Fury, as highlighted, up in about 10 seconds. Right now, this is kind of a big point of contention, I think. The game is obviously in favor of the Ravens right now, about 2,000 gold. But one fight win right here by the Dragons, game's even, potential for fire, and it's flipped on its head. Or if the Ravens win it, potential for fire, and the game is even more in their favor.
Haddix just flexing a little bit in mid, throws down the axe and the ultimate.
Horrific.
Some good damage. LASBRA getting some poke against Scream, and the same can be said on the opposite way. Frenzy still up for the Jade Dragons as the Ravens push into the Fury once more. 4-man grouping of the Dragons against only the 5 here. Nika has not shown up just yet. Frenzy now popped by the Highland Ravens. Fury down to a quarter HP, and it's now an ultimate used by Coast to try and take that one away, but the Fury has been reset. It's Venenu trying to fend off against Dardez, who's transformed into the Chaac, but Haddix takes down Coast in the back line. And now Nika on rotation, the Kraken will get the Aegis from Venenu, but he falls down. Kill for Dardez, but Mike is low. Someone's got to take him down and Scream to get the job done. Now Frenzy used by the Jade Dragons, and LASBRA collapses in. 2-for-2 trade, and the battle keeps going.
Now Dardez staying in combat with that Bluestone. Scream trying to play his way around this fight. Hurry on the backside. Dardez sneaks out with that invisibility, but now caught out in the enemy jungle, the Dragons.
Nika able to zoom away, throws down the Whirlpool.
Too quick.
Stelo Hurriwind down, and his extra movement speed give him enough time to bail out. The Jade Dragons, you were calling for a team fight win for them. I wouldn't necessarily call it a win, 2-for-2 trade, but more than anything, they stop the gold and they get some important kills. Now only 600 gold between the teams.
And as that fight is happening, Nika's actually able to farm as he's rotating over, because Haddix went very early to that side of the map, and not anything gained by the Ravens. So it kind of evens out this game. And now we're looking at a point where the Dragons have the advantage, but on the other side, Ravens are going for Fire Giant, it looks like.
Oni Fury, Nika's going to tank this one
Maybe
up.
Pyro.
As the Pyromancer started by the Ravens, but do they have the confirmation to get this one? It was stolen by Mike and Laz last time. Not going to be stolen away this time, as the Ravens do manage to secure that. But as mentioned, is a Fury for the Dragons. Haddix's ultimate only hits Mike, but it does a lot of damage in setup. Undying Love used, but Venenu is still trying to crash his party, throwing out the Witch Fire bolts, but not enough damage. Mike able to sustain through as the tier 1 in mid falls on the Dragon side.
Get that tier 1 beacon is now up. It could be a fight happening around this spot. Coast already here, Zap already here. But on the right side of the map, both junglers.
Kraken hits Zapman. He's low, but not gonna fall down this time. The missed stun by Dardez was all the damage difference maker to allow Zapman to get out of this fight. But now, the Fight around Beacon may have just at least phased away for the time being. The Dragons will stand on the platform, make sure to cap that one. So 2 beacons now done. And waiting for that third, but LASBRA is going to keep sneaking around the jungle, though I'm not sure he wants to try and take a battle against Screammm. Scream's now starting to hit some big damage spikes.
Laz has this horrific, actually opts to a horrific Scream.
Goes in with the ult, trades it with the jungle. Frenzy used by
Dardez.
LASBRA. With Dardez on the way, he's got the stun, hits Zapman, gets the Omen right after we get stunned. As soon as he
got him.
transforms, Zapman might just be out.
He's
Because of that, the instant 180 axe toss spares his life, and instead now takes down Dardez. Screammm with 1. And the chase could be on for the Ravens. Haddix lurking through the jungle, but instead he'll head back to
Backfire?
base. I cannot believe that not only did Zap get out at that low health, he actually turned that around for a helping kill.
And it's not like he used nice relics to avoid some damage. He had no relics available there. They're just coming up now. And now that those relics are coming up, 5v4, Dardez dead. And no TP on Nika. There's an opportunity for fire here. We have Frenzy on Hurry upgraded. A lot of damage potential here, but keep in mind, Kraken for Secure, not great Secure on the Raven side.
Fire Giant started for the Ravens. Coast and Laz on the way. Nika and PBM
Frenzy.
there. Frenzy has been used by the Ravens. The fire is down to a quarter HP.
Kraken early.
already used. Hurriwind is fine. Venenu trying to burn through the Fire Giant. It's falling low, and the Ravens will get it. While Haddix zones away 3 to the back line. It's LASBRA in the back line of the Ravens. He's going to be shoved around. Does get the dash, but another Soul Spike kill from Screammm. Puts him up 6-0.
And you snuck something in there, which is incredible to me. Haddix during that entire fight is sitting by 3 people soaking damage, and he doesn't go below half health. He is just standing there soaking damage, and nobody can walk by him. And I mean, at that point, is an Alma going to out-secure anything else on the Raven side? Not really. So great zoning there by Haddix. Fire Giant now on 5. Not a massive gold lead, but still enough where you want to push this lead and you want to try to get something. No Pyro Bomb in your pockets, which is a little risky to actually push a Phoenix. But 4 towers on the map, that's 4 sources of income that the Ravens should be looking for.
And I want to get your thoughts on an item pickup before we get too far in. It's Hurriwind. Absolution. Second slot. Picked up earlier. Wanted to get thoughts on it at the time, but didn't really have a moment to sneak it in. What are your thoughts on the item? We know we did get a buff this patch, a little bit more HP to it, but still that passive just feels like it'd be so impactful for these guys.
Yeah, I think it's a very good pickup if there's an obvious CC on the Dragon side, or the opposite team side. And you look at the Dragon side, Alma, incredibly obvious ult. Kraken usually begins with a 3, very obvious when it's happening. So I like the pickup, but it's still reliant on having a good timing with it. It's very easy with Alma, it's a little difficult with the Kraken, but just the opportunity to allow your entire team to just not get CC'd for a few seconds is huge for a lot of these fights.
We'll see how much more use we get out of it from Hurriwind as the game continues on. But this is the closest game that we have had out of our 3 so far this late into it. 22 minutes, only about a 2.5, 3K gold lead for the Highland Ravens. We're really starting to see some of the XP leads really break out. 20 for Screammm versus the 17 of LASBRA. Has his jungle starter finished up. That's really the only major XP lead, though. The Jade Dragons everywhere else have done a great job of closing up some of that gap. But it will be a Primal Fury for the Highland Ravens. It looks like a push up the left side. That tier 1 in dual lane, the only one still standing.
And kind of something we've highlighted but not really talked about a lot. LASBRA went for no defensive relic. He went for Frenzy and he went for Horrific. So if you catch him out, you get him with a Terra stun. If Screammm stuns him with Party Trick, there is very good opportunity to one-shot LASBRA in these fights. So kind of very important positioning for LASBRA, and also he needs to be very wary of his ultimate being up, because if he has no ultimate, he has no safety.
Stun on the coast, dash by Screammm, and the ultimate catches him.
Party Trick?
Gets the Aegis away, Party Trick, and a
One
spike
away.
was 1 from going through. That would have been like our 4th one of the day, just from that passive alone as someone nearly out. The Jade Dragons live. They lose their 2 towers, but PBM's ultimate down, and no relics for any of the dual lane.
And I think that's the important part. No safety here for Coast, and he's not a safe character anyway. Anhur is not a safe late game character. At this point, if you have no Aphrodite ult, no relics on your support also, Coast positioning is going to be very important. He also doesn't have that level 20 yet to have the extra safety from the health from the leader's cowl that he's been opting for, also extra lifesteal. So Coast is going to be very important in these fights for the Dragons. Can they keep him alive? On the Raven side, are they going to be able to take him down? Because we've got now 2 minutes with no relics for Coast. Fire Giant is up in 1 minute. Fire Giant is down in 10 seconds. But Coast is going to be very important for this next fight for both teams. Can the Ravens kill him? Can the Dragons keep him alive? Can Coast position correctly?
And even Haddix in his build opting more towards the physical side of things. Mid-Guardian Mail next. And if the team fight at Fire is any indication of the last time, he's going to be in Coast's face. What does Coast want to do? Auto him? What's he not going to be able to do well? Probably autos.
Mike's ult again.
Ult from Haddix gets Mike's away. And that's a massive ult from the Jade Dragons lost now around this Fire Giant. Sure, you got not much CDR, though, in the build from the Dragons to get that one back. Mike might not have it for this team fight. This Fire could just go to the Ravens because of it.
And if I'm the Dragons, this is a give. You are not spiking right now. You don't have any strong relics. Yes, Mike's relics will be coming up, but he has no ult. This is not an EFG. Maybe you can look for a pick with Mike's Kiss right now, but this could be such a bad play.
Hurriwind steps up, drops a monolith, backs away, and misses out on the stun afterwards. Still 40+ seconds until Coast gets his relics. Mike's only halfway to getting his ultimate back online, so not much safety to be had from the dual lane of the Dragons. So what the Ravens do, go ahead and work on taking down the Titan that's marching up this side of the map. And that might give them some pressure now around Fire, because the Dragons will have to make the choice, defend the Fire or defend the objective.
If the Dragons opt to defend this, it's eyes on Dardez. Can he sneak into the backline, pull relics, and maybe get into a big Chaac ult or something like that? Because that's who I expect him to turn into for this defense. Ravens are now pulling.
Fire started once more. It's Haddix zoning Coast. You really can't get much done against them. Scream couples up for some extra damage, but Coast has already jumped away. Haddix has his ultimate back if he needs it. Frenzy popped on the side of the Jade Dragons. As the Fire gets reset by the Ravens, Haddix taking a bit too much damage during the fight. Forces a reset for the Order side team.
And Coast relics are now back up. Mike, yes, used his relics, but actually Laz just dashes onto Scream.
Scream used his dash against LASBRA. Another ultimate
Haddix
used
behind.
by Mike, but Haddix is TP to the back line, and Scream has already removed the carry. Kraken used, not going to get much value just yet. Can Dardez find the turnaround? He goes into the Maman and uses it to dash away. The snake just misses out this time, and it's LASBRA falling low. Hurriwind as well, but Dardez going to keep up the chase. Misses the damage on Ven.
Nika?
It's going to be up to Nika to secure this kill, but Scream's going to try and bail him out. Gets the stun just in time, but Dardez gets a stray shot to knock him down. Nika traded out. PBM and LASBRA team up. Scream is low, and Scream is gone. A massive shutdown for the Jade Dragons, but they've got to bail out of the fight as LASBRA goes down. It's Dardez and Mike, the only two left to fight against the front line of the Ravens, and Haddix is going to keep up the chase.
Hurry has abilities soon. They look like they want to kill Mike before actually getting this reset off. And that entire time, that right Titan put a lot of damage onto that right Phoenix, and there looks like they're going to be able to catch out Mike. Do they have the damage, though? So far, it's looking like no. Mike juking a bunch of abilities. Haddix still chasing, no ultimate available. Now he looks to turn on the Dardez. Mike, not a ton of peel available, but Coast spawning alive now is going to dissuade the Ravens from chasing any farther. But a 3-for-3, Fire Giant doesn't go down, Pyro's back up, Gold is back up. Even game now. Relics might be down, yes, but it's an even game.
I'd say Relic's in a really bad spot for the Highland Ravens comparatively. Haddix has both of his. Hurriwinds will be coming up shortly, but still 90 seconds on nearly every set of beads and the Aegises onto the Highland Ravens. Meanwhile, for Coast, he only used the beads in that last team fight, so Aegis back up for him. Already at this point, beads still 70 seconds till then. Might be a while before we see the real breakout for this Fire Giant fight. So instead, the Ravens will take the safer approach. Go for the Pyromancer, reset the momentum. They still got a bit of a lead at 6,000 gold. As we start hitting this point, maybe not as impactful compared to the massive leads we've seen from the Jade Dragons in previous games.
Yeah, very close game, and so far that fight even says, even though the Ravens are up 5,000-6,000 gold before going into that, these fights are still going to be very, very close. But the Ravens still have a slight lead right now. 6 items on Haddix, no 6 items so far on the Dragons, so that gold lead, while maybe not big at this point, 7K at 29 minutes, it's still effective. It's still 6 items in mid, 6 items in solo, 6 items in ADC almost. Haddix actually caught out though.
Ultimate used to immune the Kraken, but he's still getting pulled back by the Whirlpool, but Haddix is still alive. LASBRA gotta commit his ultimate and body to go through, but Haddix will go down and trade with LASBRA. Dardez in the middle of 3, gets the transform into the Maman, lapses onto Zapman, but Zap helps the takedown 1 before he goes down. A 2-for-2 trade. Health bars in favor of the Highland Ravens, but Mike doesn't have an ultimate. As Hurriwind dashes forward, the Jade Dragons take yet another fight and trade out again, 2-for-2.
And I think if the Ravens were any closer to Haddix there, we're talking about a completely different fight. Fortunately, Haddix very, very away from his entire team, and he gets picked. But he does return a lot of damage, and I think we have to highlight the Chaac ult. If you try to commit to the Chaac ult and you cannot get your abilities off before he's able to go into that ultimate, he is mitigating so much damage, and it makes it so risky putting those abilities into him. But after that previous fight, the Dragons looking to pull this Fire Giant, not getting low yet, and Scream is here.
Scream pulled a couple minions, and so the Dragons know exactly where he is. Beads used to get away from the knock of the Kraken. And now the Ravens might just try and pick up Fire Giant themselves. Now knowing that Nika is without a relic, beads used. Still 160 seconds till that one's back up. The Ravens won't pull the fire just yet. We're now in enhanced Fire Giant territory. And the Highland Ravens head back towards the pit, but just to make sure the Dragons don't push up.
And you highlighted how bad the relics were for the Ravens in that previous fight, and they still came out with a trade. Now looking at the opposite side, at least for a little bit, the Dragons are at a little bit of a relic disadvantage. Yes, Mike, no relics for 40, no Aegis on your Anhur, no beads on your Poseidon. Alma's relics are coming back up right now, yes. But looking at the Raven side, basically every relic they want is up, other than Scream's beads. So Dragons have a slight advantage for this next EFG for the next 30 seconds or so. And it seems like it's going to be played a little bit slow, so that advantage does not matter too much. But we've seen now, what, 3 fights around this Fire Giant? Neither team has dominated any fight. It has been 3-for-3, 2-for-2, 4-for-4, and that's what it is. For one of these teams to really take over a fight, I think it's got to be Scream and it's got to be Dardez. They've done a lot. If they can do just a little bit more, we're talking about wipes.
Now, we've been seeing now Dardez go towards this Maman many a times, and rightfully so. Full build on Scream. Going in towards that Bancross Claw. Now we haven't seen in quite some time, but with how in-your-face you want to be, maybe a perfect item for Scream to try and go for that dive. Fire started up by the Ravens, but Hurriwind will walk out of the pit and reset that one. The Jade Dragons stand by. Every second that ticks by is another second closer to those relics coming online for the 2 important players. Nika's beads and Scream's beads, both nearly mirrored for themselves in that previous fight. Just waiting for that dive opportunity.
I'm thinking about the neutral game of both of these comps. Poke is slightly on the favor of the Raven side. Chaac, decent poke. Zapman has decent poke. Venenu has decent poke. But you have Sustain on the side of the Dragons. This Aphrodite sustains a lot. Hurry up by himself. And Dardez gets the stun into Venenu.
Dive to Venenu. Ultimate used, but Venenu's going to jump over the wall. Now Dardez can't continue his chase. Instead, it's the rest of the team collapsing at the top of the pit. Dardez caught out by Zapman, who one-bow combos him down. And now it's Scream in danger. LASBRA going in for the ultimate. The Kraken nearly guarantees it, but it's a trade out as Scream gets one from the grave. And meanwhile, Zapman going Maman to the back line, and VaporishCoast at a corner, and Zap jumps in, uses the Aegis. Coast tries to turn it around, but he loses his life. Nika, big chase down by Ven, and Ven needs one more shot, one more ability, but it's yet another trade. It's only Mike alive, and only for a moment longer. The Highland Ravens get the D aside, and with 3 alive, and one of those being the carry, this could be the push for the end of the game. Up to the Phoenix they'll go, with a minion wave with them, and a runic bomb in pocket. The Highland Ravens, with their fight, may just win game number 3 and push us to that 4th game.
Dardez still down for 15. Minion waves pushing in. It looks like it's going to be good. And that, just like that, down to half health. Dardez in 8. A lot of damage coming out. Not burning as quickly as they want, but the Frenzy comes up just in time, and damage enough there is. The Ravens kill the Titan. They're bringing us to game 4.
Gotta give some credit to Zapman in that fight, man. Jumping in against Dardez, who did so much damage against the enemy at that point, but when Zapman finds that one little catch out straight out of the D transform, gets that first kill, and you see the Ravens immediately collapse afterwards.
And it looked like it was going to be a brilliant fight by the Dragons. Dardez sneaks into the backline, gets the stun, nearly one-shots Venenu, and there's just nobody with him. They don't have a dive comp to dive with Dardez, and Dardez goes for him by himself, tries to make that hero play. Barely not enough damage. And as you said, Raven's able to chase out, Zap able to kind of bait a little bit as he does, and they actually end up winning the fight. Great final fight by the Ravens, but that late game was still a little 50-50.
It was a little touch and go in some of those fights. A 3-for-3, a 2-for-2. We kept saying all you need is to get one little extra bit of damage. Zapman was there to help out the Highland Ravens and now pushes us to game number 4. A big win for the Ravens in game number 3 keeps it interesting. We'll see how it goes in game 4 right after.
That's right, you can pick up your own brand of madness right now. Cthulhu's Dream, a new flavor, along with a new shaker from Advanced.gg. And Mifflin, look, after Maui, right, the tropical summer, this one gets you a little, raspberry acai, and gives you a nice little punch, right? A nice little drink to have as we transition, I guess, into the madness that is Worlds.
That's pretty good. Sorry, I was just starstruck. I am so susceptible to ads, man. Like if a commercial is legitimately cool, like anyone that knows me will tell you I'll do it. You know what I mean? I'll buy it. Like Chacaroni. I saw a pepperoni pizza commercial and I got owned because it was called Chacaroni.
And yeah, and it literally is just a pepperoni pizza. Luckily for you, this is better than just a pepperoni pizza. You can go to advanced.gg, again, all of the shakers, but specifically that new one is the Cthulhu shaker, and of course, Cthulhu's Dream, the new flavor available now, so you can go to advanced.gg/smite, pick those up while you can. It maybe will give you some energy like we got to see from the Ravens in this game, Mifflin. Feels like they were going down game 1, game 2, much without a fight. You like to draft a lot more in game 3, and we finally get a punch back from them to push the team forward.
Yeah, I think getting Maman Brigitte may have been just the keystone of it, because one team had Maman Brigitte, and the other team sometimes had Maman Brigitte. And when Maman was on the Jade Dragons, it looked pretty good, but the Highland Ravens had it constantly. I thought the Chaac got a better performance this time around, rotated into a game that wasn't entirely lost, so was allowed to be that backline disruption factor that we hadn't seen in both games 1 and 2. But it compositionally, top to bottom, the Highland Ravens, I think, just pieced together something much, much better here. There were multiple threats. If they lost one member, like one of their carries, they would still be able to win out on a team fight, and that is the primary difference maker. But you got to give all that credit to Screammmmm. I think he just gets everything done throughout that early game. There was one fight around the Gold Fury early on where Screammmmm just goes absolutely massive, facilitating his team, doing all the damage himself. And when you put him on a playmaker like this, I think that's what you're going to come to expect from a young Sprack there. So stop putting him on facilitators. I'm done with it. I'm done with support jungle Screammmmm. I like carry jungle Screammmmm because he'll carry the game, and he proves it once more here for the Highland Ravens. Jade Dragons, on the other hand, I had thought a good deal of fight back, but it's something that you had brought up on the death segment there in game number 3. Just not a lot of initiation. So even when they were in the driver's seat and were capable of starting off fights themselves, it was a whole lot of, man, sure hope we can kill someone off of LASBRA's silence? Man, sure hope we can get someone from Mike's kiss? There just wasn't a whole lot of places or ways for them to start off the fight themselves. A lot of it was counter initiation, and their draft not exactly the best at that.
And I have to give a huge shout out to Hurry as well, right? 1-2-17, much better performance, I think, in support. And for Zap as well, even though it was 2-4-9, the slash line maybe doesn't look that great. I think the damage numbers and what he was able to do, again, just to facilitate the team, and most of that in the 8,000 structure damage he did, really opened things up. Made that duo lane feel a lot stronger than they had the last couple of games. So find balances like that. Find those drafts. Do that again if you're the Ravens.
I'll say this, though, for the Ravens. They're playing with fire every time they give this Anhur to VaporishCoast.
Yeah.
That is just Coast's best pick, full stop, and even in this loss, dominates the lane and got first blood. There are other aggressive Hunter picks. That's true. There are other picks that are capable of doing what Anhur does, but I'm not sure there are other picks that VaporishCoast is capable of playing at the level of his own Anhur. It is just head and shoulders above his next best pick. Maybe if the Ravens want to continue this trend of making things easier for themselves as the set develops, we get rid of that pick too.
Well, the question, I guess, is going to be adaptation, and who's going to be the one adapting. At this point, probably should be the Dragons after that loss. We'll see what happens. Picks and bans game 4. The Dragons still in the lead 2-1 over the Ravens, and will swap for the first time this set to be first pick. What kind of bans are going to come through? Well, Naja screams to be the same. So does the Emoja from the Dragons, but Maman gets taken care of immediately by the Ravens, which means something's going to be available. Athena joins the Ravens ban column, as does the Baba Yaga, which means right now the Opwash, the Raijin, and the third thing that I'm blanking on that has not been banned. Chernabog, right. How could I forget about Chernabog, who does get banned there by the Ravens. And so a couple of mages open now that have, up to this point, been completely blocked out. Opwash was top pick a few weeks ago. Seems like he's still there, and Mifflin, he's locked in at the top.
Yeah, we don't know exactly where that op wash is going. Could be mid, could be solo. Same could be said of Raijin on the other side. All we do know is that they're going to have a great deal of survivability and damage output. Difference being the Highland Ravens get a boon to initiation just from Raijin himself, having Taiko drums, long range, CC. I think a very good pickup for them. Op wash on the other hand will give you massive advantage come objective secure time. Good luck beating out triple corpse explosion on a fire giant or on a gold fury. So it's neither here nor there in the top two, the Jade Dragons or the Ravens. Anhur, though, I think a very, very smart adaptation. Just take it away. Get it off coast.
Yeah, as an essential fourth ban there, right? Like, Op Wash Raijin, they're going to make it through. Someone's going to pick them up, but that Anhur is yeah, Zap's going to be good at it. Also get coast off of it. Mainly get coast off of it.
I mean, go if you want to go like way back, Steven was an Anhur player in Season 1 and 2. And then it feels like, you know, we got 5 more hunters, and he said, I'll play the other ones since then. But still certainly capable of it. Any hunter that's been around for as long as old Zapman certainly has been around the block on that Anhur pick once or twice. Jade Dragons in response will pick up the Hachiman and Aphrodite. Duo lane locked in. It's a very survivable duo lane. I don't know if you're doing a whole lot of killing. We did see a little bit of a cheesy kiss impale 250 true damage essentially combo to secure first blood. In the previous match, you still do have a similar level of boxing potential, but as far as kills secure, I think the Jade Dragons duo lane going to take a pretty significant hit here.
It's going to be interesting to watch, but they've been winning a lot. Like the pressure in those first 2 games was through duo, then expanded. We'll see if they're going to be able to maintain that, or much like you said, if they can just survive pressure when there's an Anhur on the other side and make it to the point where they can get into that late game and try to do something. Still curious as to how the rest of their draft is going to wrap out. Now a Sobek gets locked in for Hurry.
For real?
You don't seem to be as on board with that as some of the others.
Bro, Hurry, my man is doing just hard mode, Steel Soul, one-touch runs. You know what I mean? Like, he is playing it as difficult as he can. My man said, I want to win tournaments, but I want to do it cool, I guess. This is... Well, what do we see? We've seen Charon, we've seen Atlas, we've seen Sobek. What was it previously?
Terra was...
And Terra, one of the good one. Yeah, the good one. The one that everybody else is playing. Look, Sobek is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And up against picks like Opwash, you can make it difficult for him to exist in particular, but Aphrodite having Undying Love means that she's going to be able to immune the pluck for either herself or somebody else pretty consistently. There is that anti-heal counter matchup, Sickening Strike, and reduce some of the healing there from the Jade Dragons, but still, I think maybe not the best pick for him. Sorry, I'm so interested in what Scream was gesturing at.
I think they were waving for, that guy.
Oh, nice. We're getting an admin.
Yeah, getting an admin in there. Nemesis locked in, and this is, okay, so Mifflin, I feel almost as if I might even say I misled people, because I was thinking Nemesis was going to jump up pretty highly, and admittedly I also thought it was going to be LASBRA who ended up playing her. Instead, Ravens are the first ones to lock it in, but were the changes that the Nemesis received something that you like to see, or do you feel like she's just going to flourish against the 3 the Dragons have?
Look, the changes Nemesis got just made her blanket better. There are 2 significant buffs. Dash now down to 11 seconds scaling, instead of, I believe, what was 14 seconds at all ranks previously. Yep. And then it's just additional base damage on Slice and Dice, as well as an additional 10% scaling, meaning that she's doing more damage at all facets of the game. And Erendite just got a change, so if she was one of the OG Erendite users, now also will just be benefiting from 7% movement speed at all times. I think we are in a much better spot for Nemesis. Whether or not she's going to be something we see consistently, I'm not so sure just yet. I think Nemesis is just a very, very smart answer to the Opwash. I think she's pretty decent into the Aphrodite too. If you're worried about dying to dot damage or a massive explosion, just pop your shield immediately and you'll be able to immune a lot of that highly telegraphed damage. Speaking of dot damage though, there could be a good deal more of it for the Jade Dragons. Bastet, there's some of your initiation, which they were lacking for previously. I would not say that they've got it now. Between Aphrodite and Bastet, now we're looking at 2 single target CCs that will, one of which be burning beads pretty consistently. That's the Bastet. And then the Kukulkan to round out the composition.
Did they kick LASBRA and Dardez and pick up Scream and BMT? in between game 3 and 4.
It's weird, right? It really is weird. Spirit of the Nine Winds is going to be freeballed more often than not this game. Good luck. I mean, it's not an easy ability to hit all the time. And I'm going to be so honest with everybody. If you're freeballing Spirit of the Nine Winds, you're rolling the dice. Like, I don't care how sick you are. You can play the odds. You can put it in the best spot possible. You're not hitting it every time. It's not like Searing Pain where it's instantaneous. You got to hope someone's walking into it.
Does it... So... Man, does it at least help, you know, when we're looking at objectives?
Dude, the bottom 2 are crazy.
That's all I can lock in on is the fact that you've now got the Burst Mage. Like, you've got the guy who is going to be the secure. Do you think that's going to be enough? It feels like Raijin damage can find him, Nemesis could dive. It does feel like he's going to be in a little bit of danger as the Serpent. Is the secure the biggest asset, or are you hoping for the fights?
I mean, anytime you hit more than one guy with the ultimate, you probably won the fight. So there is that. It reminds me of back when Hurriwind was playing mid and it was Giannis every game, and you're sitting there like, man, if he just hits like 3 people, they're gonna win the game.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it just happens. And if it happens in the late game, you've done it. But as far as consistency is concerned, I could see a world where he really struggles into this Nemesis pick, where the Sobek is just chasing him down, or Tycho drums initiation from downtown, makes it pretty miserable. I mean, a lot of these Jade Dragons gods, Opwash and Kukulkan, gonna really struggle
That's
against
a real
that
squishy
dive.
team now that I'm looking at it all side to side as well.
Well, at least they have a lot of CC. Oof, they don't really have a lot of that at all.
They got a lot of damage.
They do, and they've got some sustain as well.
And like at least one big old don't fight here ultimate.
Best objective secure on map.
It's gonna be, man, it's gonna be a fun one. Whether it's a fun one for the Ravens or for the Dragons, that's yet to be seen. But someone's gonna have a good time in this game. That one, I'm gonna move it to the side for a little bit. We'll look into the Ravens, right? Feels like Raijin, Morgan Le Fay were pretty much top
Standard
just a
and
couple
good.
of weeks ago. Anhur, we've seen what it can do.
Busted.
The Nemesis and the Sobek are the ones, with
Buff
Nemesis,
recently.
like you said, buff recently. Sobek is the one that you're maybe a little more hung up on. Do you think he fits in well with this team? Like, does he make a true difference?
I mean, pluck into Sigil Mastery or Dragonflight, going to be good chain CC potential. Has great peel, though. What we're going to see, I think, a lot is from Bastet, it's I'm going to play over the wall. I'll jump over the wall. I'll hit claws, and then I'll jump back, and I'm going to keep doing that over and over. This battle of attrition where I'm just playing the poke war. You can't exactly do that when Sobek is standing on the other side of the wall. If you leap into Tail Whip, you are guaranteed to get plucked. And with the other CC available to the Highland Ravens, you're probably not leaping back unless you've already used your beads. So I think Sobek as hey, I'm going to hang out in my own back line and prevent you guys from doing these long, drawn-out battles, I think is going to be a pretty decent pick in that regard. Or if Opwash is caught being a weird little dude walking around the jungle, gets thrown it through the air, he's probably landing into his death. So there is at least a bit of threat there behind the Sobek.
Will the Dragons be able to run it down and find themselves a win? Or are the Ravens going to gift us a Game 5 just in the first set? We'll find out with the casters here in Game 4.
Thank you so much, Gore and Mifflin over on the desk. That's right. It's into game number 4. J-Mac inbound and Doug back once more to bring you the action. Highland Ravens able to bring a nice little comeback in game number 3. Got off to a strong start and just kept the ball rolling for a while, though kept keeping it close was the Dragons, never more than about a 6,000-7,000 gold difference, at least in that last game until the very end when the Ravens are able to find their win. Now, jumping into game 4, it's been the duo lane time and time again. Every time we pan over, it's really just been the duo action for the Jade Dragons, able to find them some success and win. But now, Anhur goes to the opposite side. You give it over to Zapman against Coast. How do you kind of feel about this duo matchup for the teams, Bobby?
Unfortunately, whenever you add Aphrodite into a 2v2, very rarely is she ever losing most 2v2s. Incredible sustain, incredible MP5 and mana resources to help her and her ally. I'm not too worried of Mike and Coast dying, especially with how safe they are. But pre-5, a pluck a lot of the times, there's very good kill potential there. You have enough damage, enough one-shot potential with this Frenzy, with this Anhur, and I like that they took away this Anhur. This is Coast's bread and butter. Picking this Anhur, winning lane is something that he does better than most other players with this Anhur, so I'm glad to see Zapman with this. Yes, like I said, low kill potential, especially when level 5 is hit, but if a Sobek pluck happens early, I could see a kill happening.
We'll keep eyes on Duo. Juicy Bend at level 3, level 4, when we see the action starting to kick off in that lane. Meanwhile, for Solo, it's going to be a bit of a slow start until Nika does get access to that corpse explosion. Haddix able to easily clear that wave out, and we go away from the Chaac solo that worked so well for Haddix in the previous game, now opting over towards the Raijin. Did receive some nerfs this patch, though. A lot of cooldowns hit on this Raijin.
Yeah, Raijin is now a spam character still, but it's less spam, I think is the best way to say it. The passive got hit, the 1 got hit, the 2 got hit. Or sorry, the 3 got hit, not the 2. So almost every base ability and passive was hit, so now Raijin is going to be less effective at what he does. Is he still going to be effective? Yes, he still has incredible cooldowns, very safe, very good poke, clears very well. And then when you get to that late game portion of the game, the CC that his ultimate provides is insane. It's game changing if you don't have beads. He can just lock you down and kill you if you don't have those. So that's something always to keep an eye on. But now this is the first Opwash game we actually see today. He's been banned every game also along with this Raijin. So this is like almost a completely new solo lane. We saw a lot of Poseidon. Now we get to see this Raijin Opwash solo.
Well, let's see how it performs. Also this Bastet. Maybe one of the bigger question marks for me, because it seems a little bit out of left field for LASBRA, I would say, to go for this style of pick. Frenzy used by the Ravens, but not going to get too much from it. Helps them clear out the wave, get some poke against Coast, but as mentioned, if there's an Aphrodite in lane, you got to do more than just kind of poke and prod to take down the enemy, because Mike can resustain and make sure that Coast has a nice and healthy HP bar. But going back to it, I think the jungle is going to be maybe a big question this map. Not just because the Bastet, maybe not the best pick at the moment, but again, LASBRA going to it, probably the big question mark. But then the recently buffed Nemesis making her way out to the battleground as well.
Yeah, Nem is a very interesting character because we saw her a little bit. I think it was just LASBRA and Sino that played her. Now we get to see her where she is just 100%, she's just a stronger character. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She just does more damage. Her 1 comes up quicker. She is now just an outright stronger character. So now we get to see kind of how she performs. Unfortunately, on the other side, the Dragons have a bunch of just really good picks into her. As you see, Dardez ulting that mid wave. This Cuckoo into Nem is one of the easiest matchups ever. You very rarely get slowed because your 2 is almost always up. And if he does feel like he is going to get pressured a little bit, this is going to be a book breastplate game by him. And that's like even harder to now kill this Kukulkan because he's going to be slippery. You're not going to be able to CC him really that much. And then he's also just going to be even tankier.
And what are your kind of maybe general thoughts on the Bastet? It's really one of the only kind of CCs and initiations that the team has. Because, I mean, Nika's going to walk up press 4. That's all good and well. But LASBRA's really got the only ranged initiation for this team to throw out that ultimate and try and poke somebody out. So do you think that that's enough for this pick to warrant this out of the jungle? Or do you think there maybe could have been something else that LASBRA could have gone towards?
Yeah, I'm not a big Bastet fan. I think she's a fine character. I think it's a good enough matchup into a lot of what the Ravens want to bring. Not a ton of safety if they do get ulted. There's not like a big support to peel them out. If Hurry gets plucked by the Bastet, that's pretty easy kill potential. So I don't hate it, but I also am not a big Bastet fan. I think she's very limited in how she plays. As Miff said, she kind of just jumps in and then jumps out, pokes a little bit. And if you look at kind of what the Ravens are going to be doing if they're getting dashed on, there's a lot of like interrupt abilities. Sobek, there's the MLF, there's the Raijin. I mean, even if you're poking Nem just pops shield and then takes no damage and sustains up what she did take. So I'm not sold on this Bastet. I think it's going to be a difficult game for LASBRA. But we've also seen LASBRA kind of carry games before on some funkier picks, so I'm excited to see what he does.
Nika being dove, used the ultimate. The Haddix and Scream with both of theirs. Actually end up being on the worst end of that trade because Nika can resustain nice and easily on this Opwash. Does have some extra damage to Scream, but LASBRA on the rotation through. Does have access to jump. Haddix, no ultimate. Does get by the root ult. Off the mark from LASBRA. Gonna wide shoot that one right. Haddix is able to bail himself out. No need for the beads from either of the members of the Highland Ravens. And now, with Hurriwind and Ven rotating over, LASBRA doesn't want to step too far forward to try and steal this blue, but should be fine now the pluck is off the mark.
You throw out that first Bastet ult, just kind of testing the water, seeing how you're feeling. Unfortunately, the first one, very short range and also misses, so Laz going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out that ult for the next one. But already has the Jotuns, so we should expect a lot of Basset ults just kind of getting thrown out, hoping they land. If they do land, they pull relics for free, because you don't want to get pulled back into the enemy's grasp. But the best thing about Basset, I think, is just her playmaking potential and her chase down potential. If you're low and you're running away, very few characters can get away from a Bastet or run away like a Bastet can. Thinking gods like Janus, one of the few ones that can. So if you are getting poked out as a Ravens player, you're getting very low, you've got to be on high alert that Basset is just kind of around the corner, just kind of running you down.
We'll have to keep eyes on LASBRA throughout this game, see if he can land home on a couple of those ultimates. Really see where the pressure goes for these two junglers. So far, priority's been in the solo lane for both them, as by the rotation from Scream and the counter rotation by LASBRA immediately after. Even Mike is sticking to this side. They're really trying to put some pressure on these solo mages, which was almost always kind of the answer. You throw a mage in solo lane, they're pretty squishy, especially without immediate tank item. PBM, ulted by Scream. That will be just fine. Turnaround kiss will stop any further aggression from the Ravens jungle, but not to say that there isn't still some attempted pressure there. I mean, the Highland Ravens have really been digging into the jungle side over on that right end of the map to try and find anything that they can.
And they find nothing so far, but I think when you're talking about these mage solos, they are incredibly strong when it goes late into the middle portion of the game. But early game, they're very exploitable. Only this Pythags, LASBRA actually jumping in, looks for the ult on the screen, barely misses his pluck, hurry, forces the beads. He actually looks for the ult, maybe a little chase down potential here.
Mike's got ult. Hurriwind doesn't want to chase into Tornado, and Serpent 9 wins. Meanwhile, Coast has dash on Zapman, but Zapman's going to stand his ground at the buff. Use the pillar for the extra damage. Coast in a bit of trouble, but no mana from Zapman means he won't be able to push too much further forward, even holding on to ultimate. And Hurriwind standing guard. Needs to do a lane to the Highland Ravens, will be fine for the time being, but Zapman has been a lot more willing to stand his ground against Coast in these 1v1 trades.
Yeah, on this Anhur, it's something you kind of have to be able to do. You have to be able to take these 1v1s. If you're not winning 1v1s, you should not be playing Anhur. So I like that Zap was able to step up and take that 1v1 fight. And actually looking at Dardez right now, he's level 11. Highest player on the map, and actually Hurry gets caught out, kissed, and the Cuckoo ult barely off the mark. Hurry gets chased down. He's going to be taken down also. Zapman almost gets the peel there, but Cuckoo ult is used. So that should be all the aggression we see, and we get that first blood down onto Coast. And when you're playing into a matchup like Hachiman versus Anhur, those levels, that gold, that matters a lot.
Yeah, so 4 games and 4 first bloods for the Dragons. Every single game it's been them on first. But this time, that first blood used to just shore up some of the lead that the Highland Ravens have had. All of that bounty effectively, just to mitigate the small start that the Ravens had in their advantage. But mentioning Dardez, the level 11 versus the 10 now of Venenu. Didn't secure the kill with the ultimate, but did continue to at least keep some of that zone control out there. These tornadoes, maybe some of what's allowed him to be able to get this extra farm. A lot of other gods in the game got to stand there, wait on the wave. Dardez on Cuckoo, he can just walk up, drop tornado halfway up the lane, pretty much peace out at that point and go farm somewhere else.
And it also got its scaling buff that same patch too, so a little extra damage potential, and then as you said, can you just kind of place it and then walk away. He's already level 12, can actually back for that second relic already. And dual lane, level 8 for the support, level 10 for the ADCs. Coast is already back, got his tier 2 XE spike. Has not finished stacking the dev gloves, and then on the opposite side, Zapman has finished stacking the dev gloves, but not backed for a spike yet. So not really strong enough to want to fight over there, but he is level 11.
So far, 2 ult by LASBRA, neither of them connecting. Last time was a fast dash to the side by Scream to avoid it. We'll have to see when we start seeing some of those ults connect, because that feels like that would be a huge turning point for the Dragons in a team fight, and a great way to start one up. LASBRA jumps over the wall, tries to get some damage to Hurriwind, but Hurry is very tanky on the Croc, does have that Gauntlet of Thebes. It seems like both supports now immediately going towards that recently buffed Relic Dagger.
Yeah, you're right. 100% a Relic Dagger here for our both. And Mike actually has the beads. So he's going for a Relic Dagger with the beads, maybe for something with the upgraded beads to get cooldowns out so you can actually peel a little quicker, get those abilities up quicker, peel a little bit more. But actually, no Relic Dagger from Mike. He resets, he gets that Winged Blade. So a lot of safety that Mike has right now. Winged Blade for safety, for movement speeds, and also has the beads. And then also on top of that, has the ult for CC and damage immunity.
How good Relic Dagger is, it's almost the question. Well, why Wingblade? Then you look at the other side. Literally everybody can slow. That's the primary bulk of the CC from the Ravens. So a good pickup by Mike. It's going to afford him a little bit of that extra slow immunity. And also granted to that team as well, that extra little burst of speed. So we'll see how Mike can make use of it during these fights. No real place around the objective just yet. I thought earlier when Dardez rotated over, we saw the Gold Fury, attempted by the Dragons. It was just a pick to Hurriwind. I thought that was going to be the objective pull because you look across the board for everybody. Best secure on the map by a landslide is Dardez on this Cuckoo. So maybe not one to go for the play just yet, but maybe surprising they're taking so long to try and go for one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a little surprising, especially with best secure by far. Landslide, best secure. He's also the highest level in the game, too. He's got so much prio in mid, he can just drop Tornado and then walk over to actually pull this. Maybe it's just something the Dragons are happy kind of going late game and just kind of farming up, because so far, they did get that first blood, but this game is just even. And with this game being even, 12 minutes hits, Beacon has spawned. Soul Laners, actually it looks like the Soul Laner is looking to rotate, so maybe a little fight happening on the Beacon soon.
Do see it slowly capped up by the Ravens. I'm surprised Dardez and Mike just gave up the pressure there, even with LASBRA standing by. It might just be full commit to a fight elsewhere instead. Beacon still not capped just yet. Both teams resetting it. Hurriwind walks off the platform. Dragons step back up. Hurriwind stun. Fast dash out. 3 versus 3. Now LASBRA on the way.
That's zone
Ultimates
control
available. And you have to keep watch on both of LASBRA and Dardez as a combo. So the Jade Dragons, after a little poking and prodding, will manage to cap the first Beacon.
This Cuckoo Tornado and I don't even know what to. Every Opwash ability is zone control, but the zone control that the Jade Dragons have with this comp is insane. Trying to walk through jungle or walking through a Gold Fairy Pit area if they know a fight is going to be happening, it's going to be very difficult for the Ravens. The Ravens, so they're going to have to choose their fights wisely. So far, a very slow game for both teams. Both seem to be very happy going for that late game portion. And when you talk about late game, I think it is always good to highlight how 5v5s happen, but also how objectives will happen. And Dragons, as we highlighted, easy to tell what they want to do. Sustain, as soon as somebody walks up, try to kill them. If nobody walks up, Cuckoo up for secure. But you look on the other side, Ravens have a little bit harder of a time, not as much sustain. When it comes down to it, it really is just, you have to be able to punish the Dragons when they walk in. And they have some punish potential, but before that even happens, Fire Gold Fury pulled.
Coast and Dardez put out plenty of DPS on the objective, and Dardez is there for ultimate secure to make sure that the Gold Fury does go to the Dragons. The Highland Ravens a little bit late on the jump to try and get over that direction. It means that first objective of the game to the Dragons. And still with that first blood, the lead isn't massive. Only about 500 in favor of the Jade Dragons at this point. For 14 minutes in, only 1 kill on the board. The one objective now may be answered back by a Pyromancer, but Haddix has already used his lead. Plasma's going to dive right in. It's going to be pushed back by Hurriwind, and now it's the Dragons who pick the Pyromancer right back up. Mike does manage to use his beads to get away from the pluck of Hurriwind, but it's the Dragons now with the second objective.
And the Ravens pull that, and then because of how Haddix plays that, they're actually forced to just give up that pressure, and then the Dragons opt to pull it, and they get that objective. And so far, I mean, we've seen this a lot over in left lane. Zapman is up a level, and it still seems like so much pressure's on the Coast is putting onto him, even though, like, this is an Anhur Hachiman matchup. This is Anhur supposed to be a dominated matchup, but so far it seems like Coast wants to take the 1v1s, and Zapman is kind of playing back.
We did see Coast even walk into tower just to try and delay the back of Zapman. Ends up finding Scream and Hurriwind, but a fast ult means that Coast is good. Only uses ultimate to escape that one. Still holds on to both of his relics for the next fight. as far as XP is concerned, it's pretty much even across the board. The one level that Dardez has over Venenu is traded by the one that Zap has over Coast. And builds actually matched for the two hunters. I think it's surprising to say, considering how opt Zapman has been to go for the Demon Blade in that third slot. Surprising to see him not opt for Crypt this early.
Maybe it feels like Coast is just doing a lot of damage, and he's like, I want to try that build. No longer does he want to go for that Demon Blade and risk that crit chance. He just wants that extra pen from Dom. But as you said, same build. And across the board, Dragons about a 1,500 gold lead. Nothing really happening with these towers. It's mostly just those objectives, as we said. Both Gold Fury and Pyro went to the Dragons. And we've seen kind of the power of this Cuckoo so far. Level 17 kind of seems to be the way they're opting for it. Get this Cuckoo fed. He's not opting for that breastplate. He's going for that full damage. And even at this point, there is one-shot potential with this Mirrodin Cuckoo.
Hurriwind eats a stun from Mike, but Mike should be able to resustain the damage dealt to him by Ven. Pluck onto Mike. No follow-up from there. Just seeing what Hurriwind can grab, see if he can pull a relic, an ultimate, whatever it may be from the opposition. Speaking on at least the blades picked up, we talked about the wing blade that Mike went. Hurry did end up going for the relic dagger himself and fully upgrading it already. Eldritch dagger on board and online for Hurriwind.
Yeah, a little weird to see it upgraded, but I want to see him use that relic now to get vision, because that's kind of what you're playing for when you go for it. If you want this early Eldritch, it means you want to get wards in the jungle, Gold Fury, Pyro, stuff like that. So that's what I want to see Hurry opt to do. But it's a little weird with the relics he has also. It's not like he has like a Sunder, something low cooldown, a Bracer, so you can actually just use it and get it back up. If you see somebody use this Frenzy, it's going to be something that's down, and it's going to be obvious. And then you won't be able to get that D ward. But maybe he just wants a little bit of protections. Zapman looking for that 1v1 finally, but does not hit the impale. So Coast just opts to disengage. Level 17 for all three laners on the Raven side. Level 18 for Dardez. Trying to go for that early level 20. Maybe that's the spike the Dragons are waiting for.
Maybe so. Group around Beacon once more. All 5 of the Ravens, at least on the left side of the map, to match that of the Dragons, but the Dragons are the ones with pressure on the platform. They grab the Beacon once more, and Fury has just spawned back in. We saw how quickly it went down before, and the easy secure the Dragons have as long as Dardez is nearby. Primal started up.
It's free.
Quarter HP. Ultimate. Thought they pulled that one out of it for a moment.
It was
but
close.
Secured by the Jade Dragons, not from the ult itself, but just from their inherent damage after. So Jade Dragons continue to pull these small leads away from the Ravens. Again, we're 18 in. Only a single kill on the board, but now 3 objectives that the Jade Dragons have gotten.
It's not like the Dragons are really opting to do much either. It's like the Ravens get caught double backing, and then the Dragons just opt to do an objective, and they can just do it quickly. They have the damage, they have the secure as highlighted. So not too weird by the Dragons, but it's not been massive mistakes. Maybe just too many people backing at a time for the Ravens.
Hurry misses dash, Scream, rotating to the back line, uses the shield, but now has to dash away from the damage following after. Ult in from VaporishCoast as Venenu caught up, but Venenu takes down LASBRA with a couple ult shots over the wall. It gets used by Venenu, keeps himself alive for a little bit longer, but it's not for much longer as Nika takes him down. 2-for-1 trade so far for the Jade Dragons, but Zapman and Haddix stepping forward means that the Dragons can't stand around the Pyromancer.
And Zapman still with ult available, but Mike on this Aphrodite can heal up Coast actually a lot here. Zap is actually pulling and doing a lot of damage, down to half.
Coast half health, but healing from Mike means that he'll be fine. Zap and Haddix don't have that same luxury. Their sustaining just comes from their builds. As the Dragons step up to Pyromancer once more. It's Nika zoning away on the Opwash. Doesn't have ultimate yet, but back up in just a few seconds. Pyromancer secured by the Jade Dragons, and even Zapman gets clipped by a big chunk of damage from Dardez. It's going to force the Highland Ravens back. The Jade Dragons with a 2-for-1 trade plus Pyro.
And again, I mean, pretty decent-sized fight. We get 2 kills for the Dragons, only 1 for the Ravens. But the big wins for the Dragons are just coming at these objectives, and they're just waiting for the Cuckoo ult to be up. As soon as Cuckoo ult is available, they pull the objective, they ult it, and we talked about this earlier in the game. Objectives, if pulled and Cuckoo's alive with ult, will be going in favor of the Dragons. That's the value of this pick. so far the Dragons have been playing around that very well. Got themselves a nice little 3,000 gold lead. 20 minutes into the game, though, this is not a sustainable, winnable lead. You got to push it more. And right now, there's not really a ton of stuff to push for. Maybe a tower. Zap actually looking for the 1v1 here.
Misses the Impale combo, but still going to box against Coast. But Coast is winning the trades. A nice little crit helps out the both of them as they're down to 300. Coast goes for the ultimate to escape. Zapman and Coast both alive with only a few hundred HP. I was like, okay, that's a good crit for Coast. And then Zap gets one immediately after, about a nice little 400 or 500 swing each way. Means no kills between these two hunters. But talking a little bit, at least between these two comps, you say the Dragons need to be able to push this lead a little bit more, get some more gold in their favor. Is this because that the Dragons' composition falls off as we go a little bit later in the game, or is this that the Ravens' comp scales better towards late game?
I actually think both comps are pretty good late game. I think the Dragons comp is actually slightly better. It's more so when you have a lead, you want to be able to push it, because late game, one fight changes everything. And Fire Giant pulled, it's already half.
Half health on it. Hurriwind in the pit. Haddix on the way. Using the Taiko drums to push Nika and everybody else out. Ultimate from Dardez helps to get the Fire Giant. And the Ravens, again, not able to capitalize off of anything. Hurriwind, 30% on his health bar. Has to be careful walking back into lane with all 5 of the Dragons nearby. LASBRA's got ult. The first one he connects is going to pull him right back into the Wolves, and it's Coast who picks up the kill.
They actually have double bomb available here. They have Wave. No, never mind. Wave was taken down, but Wave is not too far behind. They have double bomb up for a Phoenix here. Scream is pushing down right.
Still holding on to both Runic Bombs now. A 4 versus 5 defense. No ult for Dardez. Only ult available is PBM's. It's going to be a trade out for Scream using his, and it keeps the Dragons zoned away. Still holding on to both Runic Bombs in pocket. The Jade Dragons might not even need one to take down the Phoenix. They will drop one, but it's taken out immediately by the Highland Ravens. Not able to push that one out. Coast is still standing by, but Hurriwind has finally respawned.
But it seems like the Ravens are a little bit too low. Hurry's really the only one here. Big Onk actually available now. Opwash all dropped. Laz jumps away.
Haddix gets some damage with the ult. Coast is low. Mike's going to try and re-sustain, but no ult from Mike. Scream heading over towards the speed buff. Can try and wrap his way back into the fight, but not going to get there in time. Nika's full sustain. Coast with lifesteal and an Aphrodite next to him. He's back up to full health, and it's the Dragons once more to an objective. It'll be Gold Furious the call. Dardez has ultimate. It should be a guarantee for the Dragons once again. Won't even need the ultimate.
And it seems like the Dragons maybe dropped that Phoenix by not using both available bombs. They only dropped the one, and Zapman, very aware of what they're wanting to do, kills the bomb before it's able to go off. And Middle Phoenix lives with maybe 100 health at that point. And you still have one bomb in Laz's control, so maybe a little bit of greed there by the Dragons. I think if you just drop both, one guarantees blows up, gets you that Phoenix. Maybe they just thought they had it and they just didn't want to use the second bomb. But Fire Giant still in hand, all 5 strong. They still want to get through these towers on the side lanes. Still 2 on both outer lanes. You have tier 1s and tier 2s. So a lot of farm available for the Dragons. Even though they're up 5k, they could push this to 10k by the time they push another Phoenix.
Heading over to dual lane. We'll let the minion wave deal with that tier 1 tower as the Dragons can regroup and maybe head towards right. Still a tier 1 tower standing on that side of the map. And then 2 tier 2s immediately after. But with the Titans spawning themselves in, maybe let the Titans do a bit of the dirty work over there. Dardez is near, has ult, but is zoned out by Hurriwind, so will be the first objective for the Ravens in a Pyromancer, but we're already fighting into about a 5,500 gold deficit. LASBRA can try and walk up and take this Phoenix. Zapman's respawn. He'll use a cat. Throws the Runic Bomb down. Zapman actually stops that one again. That's 2 Runic Bombs that Zapman's defused. Ultimate used from LASBRA in response, but half HP on him. Crash in by Haddix to try and chase down Laz. He's got decent cooldowns to try and keep up. Use the Raiju. Scream, use the ultimate, slows down Laz. Laz doesn't have any relics to fight back in. He gets taunted out before he can use the blink.
He greeted the blink.
And the Highland Ravens get a pick on the jungler. Jade Dragons now without both of their Runic Bombs. That mid Phoenix still stands. And they've now got to fight a 4v4 on the right side.
And if Laz just doesn't greet the blink, just uses it right away, he just gets out. Unfortunately, though, he greets it a little bit and dies. And the only thing the Dragons really get here are those towers. Tier 2 is still up in left. Tier 2 is still up in right. And right now, both Titans will be dying. Fire Giant is also falling off the Dragons right about now. This game not really pushed all that well by the Dragons. I would actually say that was a rather poor Fire Giant by them. I think mid was very easily in their control. I think left was something they could have pushed also. And they just gave up Pyro for free. They also lost LASBRA. And now, yes, it's kind of like still an advantage for them. But if you get Fire Giant, you want to push your lead more than 500 gold.
Yeah, we're still sitting only about 6,000 in favor of the Jade Dragons at this point. The 5k XP, not meaning a whole lot. It's mostly just in that support role. In fact, it's pretty much all in that support. That shows the difference in that experience department. 26 minutes in, this gold lead, near negligible. Everybody pretty even as far as the leads in their own respective lanes concerned. It's not like, you know, Coast is 4,000 gold up over somebody. I say that. It's about 2,000 over Zapman. That helps him get a Deathbringer.
Wow.
Ahead of Zap for the time being. So full build now for the carry of the Dragons. Those 1v1s that were going pretty even between him and Zap. Not so much anymore with Deathbringer online.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest spike you can get for an ADC at almost any point, maybe other than like Kin's size. But Kin's is not really in the current builds with these mage solo lanes. So now with this Deathbringer available for Coast, Dardez also has that ult for Confirm. The Dragons have everything they need for this fight. They've got Burn on this, they've got Sustain, and they've got the Confirm. Now all that needs to happen is to push out the Ravens just a little bit to get enough space, or look for a trade somewhere where you can poke somebody else.
Highland Ravens a little scattered as the Jade Dragons start to group up around Fire Giant. Jade Dragons have all the pieces to the puzzle. It's time for them to put it together around this Fire Giant, around this next team fight. Mike walks up. Coast gets massive damage along with Dardez against Hurriwind. That might just send the Sobek back to lane, or I should say back to base. No way that Hurriwind can stick around here, especially with the poke damage that the Dragons have already put out. But he's going to.
With the sustain option that the Dragons have, they're actually looking to just do Fire Giant. Fire Giant gets confirmed. Hurry's too far forward. Haddix sitting in the Opwash ult also.
VaporishCoast gets credit for 1 kill, and the Ravens scatter to the wind instantly. The Jade Dragons, they grab objective, and the Ravens have no fight back. I don't know why Hurriwind stuck around so long.
And it's just like these quick plays that the Dragons can do. This Deathbringer allows so much damage, and then this Cuckoo ult is doing so much. It's so hard to contest an objective with Cuckoo.
You see the Jade Dragons push up again. Another 4v5 for them. Mid Phoenix gave him trouble last time. Still giving him a bit of trouble now, and without runic bombs, but you've got all 5. Mid Phoenix falls down, an immediate beeline over to the left side of the map. Tier 2 still standing with Fire Giant around their waist. Not enhanced Fire Giant, but still the extra burst is enough to take this one down, and they push up towards left Phoenix.
5 strong, no wave as you said, but Fire Giant's still in their pocket. They've got really good poke here. They've got really good sustain. They just need to play this a little bit slower, let mid-wave maybe push in a little bit. But you also have this poly on Dardez, and that ult is now available again. One-shot potential.
Hurriwind's back up. Some good decoys thrown out from Venenu off that sigil. Not going to get an insane amount of poke just yet. Phoenix is back on the mind of the Jade Dragons to drop the Outwash ultimate, and Hurriwind's health bar along with it. Haddix, he's falling low on the side. He's getting clipped by random crypt minions. In fact, Haddix has to go back because of it, standing inside the Outwash ult almost the entire duration of it. Sends them back. But the good news for the Ravens is that no one goes down, and the left Phoenix stays alive.
And I think we're both starting to see how squishy Hurry actually is in these fights. He's not even plucking in. Like, usually you hear the story about Sobek, you pluck in, you die. He's walking up and dying. He needs to get tankier items online. He's level 16. Everybody else in the game is level 20. And I think that's kind of the big difference so far in this game. Hurry is just not able to frontline like you want him to be able to.
His biggest problem now is that everyone on the Dragons has beads. Mike ultimate down is good, but doesn't have an ideal target to try and pull back because no one else on the Ravens is able to grab those relics. LASBRA dives in on top of Haddix, and that's going to send him back to base. So once again, it's a 5v4 for a few seconds. The Dragons walk up. They still haven't taken down that Phoenix just yet. Still standing with a sliver of health, but Hurriwind gets caught out, has to use the ultimate to escape, and Coast dives in with his ultimate, bailed out a little bit, but still goes down. The Ravens lose Phoenix, but maybe a resurgence in the fight. Scream is wrapping around, doesn't have ultimate. blinks away from LASBRA. 5v4. Ravens lose out on the bird, but the Dragons still maintain their lives.
And Coast, maybe a little too aggressive with that ult.
Just a
Ults
little.
into 4 people. Uses the Aegis, uses the beads, but just gets left behind because the Dragons knew they had to leave him. And I think we're talking about something even worse for the Dragons there. If Nika doesn't play that disengage as well as he does, he's able to kind of keep away the rest of the Ravens team other than Scream. And so the only person they have to worry about is Scream. So good zoning there by Nika. And that entire time, right after that left fight ends, Scream goes right over to that Pyromancer and confirms a bomb. So now we actually have 2 bombs on the side of the Ravens, but 2 Phoenixes on the side of the Dragons. Getting ready for this next Fire Giant up in about 1 minute. And if we've seen anything from these previous objectives, it's one thing is true. If you pull the objective and Kuku has ult, he's going to be getting it.
Now the question for the Ravens is, do you step up to this fire? I mean, it's Enhanced Fire Giant coming up line now. It's about another 1.5, 2 minutes till that one's there. You lost out on both Phoenix, especially the most crucial one when trying to go for a defense there. That left side Phoenix removed. So if you're the Ravens in this case, you know, given the lead that the Jade Dragons have, the state of the map, do you step up to this next Enhanced Fire Giant, or do you let this one go to the Dragons?
That is a difficult question to answer. You have to get wards down first. Yes, they have decent wards down on their side of the jungle. Mid is going to be down for only another 30 seconds. Left is going to be down for a while. You have enough time to maybe be able to push out left. I think it comes down to, can they push out left? If you can push out left enough, maybe you defend this for a little bit, and you maybe can send somebody back to clear. But the problem is, we saw Haddix with that TP earlier, but he's opting for that maze this game. It means they don't have a TP option or a global that can go push out left. And if it comes down to it, I think Scream is going to have to be the one pushing out that left wave. But right now, it's Zapman pushes out 2 waves. Backing now, going to be walking out, getting to this Fire Giant. And with that left Fire Wave pushing down, ticking time bomb for the Ravens. Yes, this is EFG, as you said, but you still have to be worried about your Titan. And with those Fire Waves in left, Fire Waves in mid, actually last Fire Wave in mid just dies out, but Fire Waves in left, I mean, there's always going to be that pressure over there.
Gotta also mention that Nika doesn't go for the traditional Shroud that we're used to seeing. Instead of Blood-Soaked, it's Sacrificial.
True.
Maybe that catches Haddix a bit off guard. We're seeing those crit minions do about 130 plus each hit. It's going to be amplified across the board for all of his damage. Hurriwind
He's just dead.
Gets caught out. He tries to walk forward and immediately meets his own fate. The Jade Dragons get 1, but Scream goes right back in to try and take
just
that last
one-shot
shot. It's a good damage from the Highland Ravens, and immediately at 1-for-1, and the Jade Dragons have got to bail out for the time being. But Haddix is stepped forward by himself. Thunder crashes out as soon as he meets the damage from Dardez.
Mike still has ult available, but Hurry, only 4 items deep. We have 6 items on the opposite support. Mike is 6 items deep, and we saw how quick he is still dying. But a kind of hero play there by Screammmmm by Haddix, getting enough damage onto LASBRA to actually get that kill. Looks like a little scuffle happening. Haddix dashes in, trades a little bit. Coast already half health.
Zapman wrapping around the side. 800 damage to Zapman's dome from Dardez. And that's going to force Zapman back. Scream already low from the fight. The Highland Ravens, they had a good push back in, but now need to return back to base. Left Phoenix is about to respawn.
Not just fire.
And they're just going to have to give up the Fire Giant. The Phoenix, so important for the Ravens on defense. They're going to go back, defend their lane, while the Jade Dragons will get the Fire Giant. And now, the Jade Dragon continue their push. LASBRA just now on the respawn.
And they didn't hold the Fire Giant for LASBRA, so
rude.
unfortunately...
Well, there was 2 people there.
True. Unfortunately, LASBRA will not be getting that EFG, and the Ravens quickly trying to push out left as the Dragons go down right. Only 1 more Fire Wave in left, and we've also seen Hurry now finish this Spectral. So now, a little bit of survivability against Coast, but just to highlight it, it's not just Coast that's the one that's one-shotting him. Dardez is also one-shotting him. So, yes, he'll live to Coast, but Dardez is still going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Dardez hurts. Blanket statement. We saw what he did at Zapman with a single Zephyr was 8, almost 900 damage. Haddix goes for the ultimate to pull Nika back in. Aegis and Undying Love use. Scream has found LASBRA. We saw the one shot that Scream had before. Gets the beads from Laz at the same time. It's now a big relic down from the jungler of the Dragons.
And Scream almost seems to be looking for that 1v1 against Laz, but as we've seen, not in an insulting way, but Laz is not the important player on this Dragons comp. He is probably the one you want to die if you're on this Dragons team. And right now, Screammmmm opting to kill him. Looks like Right's going to be pushing down.
LASBRA goes in, gets some damage on Haddix, forces the Beasts on the Raijin, and a Phoenix on the right side. The only healthy Phoenix the Ravens had left gets melted by the Jade Dragons, who will now back themselves up to head for Pyromancer and try and get a Runic Bomb of their own. 2 in pocket for the Ravens. Will now be 1. Did I just see 1,400 from Coast? That's disgusting. Very little do I use that term to describe anything in this game. That was disgusting to see 1,400 from Coast. I know it's a jungle objective. They're not as tanky, but that's too much damage.
Yeah, the only other thing that's that disgusting is like a level 2 gank by a jungler. That's pretty disgusting.
That might be number 1 on the list. But now with the Jade Dragons, their lead not mattering nearly as much now. The only person not full build is Hurriwind, still holding on to his recipe. Everybody else, 6 items, starting to work on their relics. We're on the opposite end for the Dragons. It's relics coming through, now an elixir for Coast. But maybe to expect, I mean, these last 2 fights, Coast has had a full Deathbringer up over Zapman. Now Zapman has his Deathbringer, has upgraded with the glyph. So now the difference is that elixir that's been picked up by their hunter. So Zap finally on somewhat even grounds.
In the build and like
in the build
department.
In the build.
Damage
look, if you cover up the left side of the screen, it looks a lot closer.
Yeah.
But then you don't, and it's like not so great. The Jade Dragons, though, starting to make their next push up to the left side. Coast frontlining, dangerous territory. Especially when you have this Afro, you have this Opwash to be that front line, but this is what was highlighted on the desk. Difficulty of siege for the Jade Dragons. Unless you can just do that to Haddix, just take half his health with a single shot in a poly.
Yeah, and these 3K pots, this EFG is coming through. So much damage on the Dragon's side. And the Ravens don't really have that true tank. I mean, even if you did at this point, you'd be getting nearly 1-shot. Dragon's looking maybe for an end here.
It might just go for it. Haddix used the ultimate to try and zone out. Server 9 wins hits and empty the crypts. The Jade Dragons diving on in, but Nika's nearly down. The Titan low. The Titan gone. In our first set of the weekend, it's the Jade Dragons on top with a 3-1 over the Ravens.
And overall, really clean plays by the Dragons today. I think a couple missteps in that third game. I think they maybe weren't as prepared as for the Maman Brigitte as you expected, kind of. But, I mean, game 1, game 2, very good highlights across the board. I think Dardez is my standout player in this entire set. I think game 1 on that Maman, game 2 on the Maman, and that Cuckoo game right there, I think it shows kind of what he is able to do, even on characters you don't really think of him with. You think of the Hera, you think of maybe the Morrigan, who we had in that third game, and he still played really well on, to be fair. But adding gods into that god pool, I think that is like the scariest thing with Dardez is he plays fantastic on his gods, you know, but if he's got even more than that, that's terrifying.
And I think another important point to kind of bring up through is the game slowed down as the set went on. We had very fast-paced game 1 and 2 from the Dragons. Ravens were able to kind of dial things back a little bit, keep the Dragons in check. And then even in this last game, still a bit much slower pace. I mean, we went 18 minutes with only a single kill and just objectives with the leads. So just seeing things slow down here, but it still benefits the Jade Dragons. They come on top with a 3-1. They'll move on in the bracket, so their next opponent will be the Ferryman tomorrow. That's it for this set. We'll throw back over to the desk to break down.
All right, now the thing to focus in on, though, Myth, is the win for the Dragons. I mean, very, very adept. Again, stumble there in Game 3, and whether you want to look at it as draft, the Ravens play incredibly well there. But Games 1, 2, and now here in Game 4, they get to come out on top. And I was, admittedly, on the fence about this game. I honestly, for a moment there, was thinking we were going to 5. But they managed to hold on strong. In your mind, like, where is it? Like, what is this catalyst that allows such a wild draft to come in and be successful?
Yeah, it's almost as if the Jade Dragons load into that game and say, look, if we play standard Smite, it's just not going to work. This composition is not built to play your granddad's 5v5, right? Where this is not Season 2. I'm not going to line up against you. We're going to take team fights around Fire Giant, this, that, the other. It felt like this was a highly specialized composition from the Jade Dragons that was executed very well. When we saw team fights work for the Jade Dragons, it was, okay, we'll send 3 or 4 members to defend the X objective or X POI, and then one guy's going to go split push. But because we've got Kukulkan on our side, we're going to be very slippery. We're going to lock down Jungle Pass, and we're going to play this disengage incredibly well. And it was this long drawn-out battle of attrition until eventually they find their opportunities, find their leads, and push themselves into positions where they can do exactly things like this on your screen. Hey, I've got the biggest damage ability in the game. You're not going to out-confirm me because Dardez has got his ultimate timings perfectly. And by the time the Jade Dragons were in that position, the death segment where we had said, okay, well, X ability needs to hit, and if it does, they'll just win a team fight, became, okay, well, we got X, Y, and Z ability that can do that. Maybe LASBRA Pounce Claw is just going to remove Ven from a fight, or maybe Dardez just hits an amazing ultimate, or maybe VaporishCoast finds a stun on a backline target, and that interesting dynamic of the team fight started to develop in favor of the Jade Dragons as the lead developed in their favor, too. But even just looking at the post-game stats here, Gore, it doesn't exactly look like, barring VaporishCoast, that the Jade Dragons just won out in engagements all the way across the map all the time. I mean, 0-0-4 for Dardez, 0-0-6 for PBM, 0-3-4 for LASBRA. If I read that to anybody and covered the results, they'd say, oh, that sounds like a Dragons loss. So it was because it's eclectic, strange composition and how they piloted it just made it work.
I mean, 11 total kills in the game, right? And you put 5 of all of those onto Coast alone.
Massive ADC diff as well.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
He has a really good game, and I would say maybe 4 really good games. Even in the loss, he looked really, really solid. So Coast gets to come out and perform. But it did feel like this one was less in the kill-oriented features and more in the objective map control features for the Dragons, which is a good thing to be able to see that they've got both kinds of games in their pocket. And of course, for them to be able to get a win here is important for them. Now, technically, 1 set win away from being able to qualify to Worlds, coming in as one of the bottom-seeded teams in this tournament. I'm sure has to feel great, but you don't got to take it from me. We got Dardez standing by for an interview.
So I got Dardez, mid laner for the Dragons. Dardez, let's start at the beginning of the set. Game 1, Maman, bit of a struggle to kind of start things out. Game 2, completely different story. I think 10-3 to kind of end that one out. What are your thoughts on this god right now? It seems like she's pretty good, and it seems like you got a firm grasp on the god.
The god is pretty good. I was hard trolling game 1. I was just like, you know how it is, like you have a blink god that you have to go in, like, it just happens. I fucked up a lot of times, but it happens.
Yeah, and then it goes over to the opposite side, game 3, and then we finally see it banned away in game 4. Talk to me a little bit about your god pool here. I mean, we saw the Maman twice, we see the Morrigan, kind of the expectations there, and then you come out in this game 4 with the Kukulkan, not one that you've played too many times before. What was the thought of going for the Kukulkan in this game?
I'll be honest, game 1 to 3, I'm on like a playmaker gun. I'm just too old, so I just had to go back to the Kukulkan. I'm just ulting objectives. Like, I'm just being a normal mage, just throwing, like spitting at people. Like, that's how it is. Yeah.
How's the team feeling right now, though? Coming to this one, I believe it's the 5th seed coming into this event. Now taking down the Highland Ravens, going to move on, play the Ferryman tomorrow. How's the team kind of feeling after a big win?
We're feeling really good. Like, honestly, we had very good streams, which sometimes doesn't mean anything. But like, we feel very confident. Like, we have so many gods, like threatening gods in our draft. So we're feeling pretty good. Even like against we play the Ferryman like next time, tomorrow. So I think we're feeling good.
Hey, look good out there. Congrats on yourselves on the big win. We'll see you a little bit later in the tournament. We'll throw it back over to the desk.
That's right. Tomorrow, another big one for them. Again, winner of that set goes immediately to Worlds, but they have taken one massive step, Mifflin, in the right direction, which is closer to that World Championship. So if you want to see how it's all going to shake out, that's not the end of the road for the Ravens. They are not done just yet. They will end up playing the loser of match 4, so the loser of the Warriors against whoever wins this next set, Leviathans and Kings. So not necessarily looking like it's going to be incredibly easy for them, but still something that they have the opportunity to, again, being able to advance to Worlds in the right opportunity. More importantly, though, is looking up there towards the Dragons again, one step away from getting where they need to go. Leviathans and Kings going to be coming up next, and again, Mifflin, this one's really interesting. You get the Season 8 champs versus the Season 9 champs, although some of the teams have definitely changed since then, and it really does feel like there's something going on here, but mainly because, we've been looking at the Kings and trying to figure out what their identity is. I think they've been trying to figure out a little bit of what their identity is. Levi's pickup Panda Cat feels like they've hit the ground running in this one. Definitely going to be a very exciting set. I'm sure you're excited. I am. Hopefully you at home are. We're going to kick it to a quick break, and then when we get back, it's Leviathans taking on the Kings.